he's not seeing either of them, because with what he said in his discussion with who was it, Jackson Snyder, he actually said that he doesn't use the luminaries. They are a witness. That's what he said. That's what Gina Sparks said. They don't believe in the equinox sign, the straight line shadow. They believe that the priestly courses somehow does everything. And when Yah created everything, he didn't have priestly cycles.
Right.
So that's just debunked right there, and it's a shame. That's what they're relying on, and it's not okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Sorry.
Oh, just real quick, Jeremy. I noticed you posted your rebuttal to Villa, right? Just recently.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to listen to that after the call because I'm really curious. But...
We're probably going to discuss it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring it up right now, but go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to refer back to the calendar that I think Mr. Villa is using. I think what they do is they run on the priestly cycles, but there's moon spotting involved, or full moons on particular months that they try to get their calendar to line up to. Basically, I think last year they would have been a week ahead of us, and this year they may even be 2 weeks ahead of us. What they don't take into account are sun gates is one. Because that would upset their lunar sort of watching.
Yes.
Some of the full moons, when they say are full moons, aren't actually full moons. They're nearly quite full moons, or not nearly their full moons. Do you know what I mean? So they're all trying to fix their own thoughts and ideas into the calendar that they're following, rather than stepping back and saying, right, let's have a fresh look at this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Right. Yep, that's exactly right. They're trying to shove Genesis right under the bus and say, no. Yah didn't really mean what he said when the luminaries mark the years and the feasts and the things like that. No. We're going to disregard that, and we're going to just say that the priestly cycles are what starts everything. And then they take 1 year, which what you said, and they're trying to track it. But yeah, the moon is completely off and won't ever match it after 294 years, which is a made-up number. That's inserted by commentary. And then before, even if you track it 294 years before, it's not a full moon. So when you get to that point in your theology and it doesn't line up, what are you going to do? And we have to take into consideration Enoch 82 when it said the sun and the stars, or not the sun, but the moon and the stars are going to be off in the days of the sinners. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we have to really say, look at the sun, because that's going to be firm, fixed, set. And then if you want to go by the sun and the moon, you're going to be off, especially in the days, which it could be now or are coming. So Marissa, went back and forth trying to resolve the moon in the equation. And it's a really hard task because it doesn't line up most of the time. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, truly.
I was just going to say, I had the only other person that our family got together with was a guy that was on this calendar, actually. And although we spoke about it and we got along really fine, he was never willing to even consider another way of looking at it. It was a really strange sort of way to be. It was absolutely feet stuck in the mud, not going to move, not going to consider anything else. And I just thought it's a really strange spirit that this kind of calendar and other calendars have on people, that they're not willing to sit down and just sort of expand their thought process a bit further and just be absolutely stuck on something, mainly because of a relationship with other people or a group of friends that are working on the same sort of thing.
Or mistranslated scriptures. It's, scriptures was changed to deceive us. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that
the
too.
lying pens of the scribes. Yeah, exactly right. And actually, this is what I got here on screen because I was watching their video, and this is a rebuttal I had wrote up for Robert Villa and Gina Sparks' video. So it's not too long. I was just going to read through it real quick, but it's basically just covering what we were just talking about right now. So the priestly cycles and where they come from. So yes, we see them in Chronicles, but it's rabbinical writings that pair up moon cycles to their priestly cycles. And that's where all of that comes from. So many attempt to apply this same method to the priestly cycles found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. This will not work. So this is quotes from rabbinical writings. So the Mishnah, chapter 4, 1 through 5, which is paralleled by the Tosefta. Again, these are just rabbinical writings. They are not scriptures. They're just writings from rabbis. Just to show this is how they're inserting their moon phases with the priestly cycles. So what it's saying here is containing here Berotat in connection with the connotation of the Mishmarot and the Mamadot, which these are the priestly cycles in rabbinical writings, with text better than that of the Mishnah. The establishment of the 24 priestly courses and the order of their service as described in 1 Chronicles 24 was meant to be a permanent arrangement. Whether this order was established and at what time the list was made is not known. In any event, it was a later development, at least 1 or 2 generations after the time of High Priest Joachim. Excuse me. So to which the list of priestly clans, which is in Nehemiah 12, is attributed. So various scholars date this list at the beginning of the, look at this, the Hasmonean usurpers area, since Jehorebab, I can't pronounce that today, the representative of the Hasmonean clan who observed the Babylonian calendar heads the list in 1 Chronicles 24, whereas in Nehemiah, his name is 16th on the list. So as we can see, this is why they line up moon cycles, Babylonian moon cycles, to the Talmudic priestly cycles that they have. As we can see, it came from the Hasmonean usurpers. So Hasmonean transliterates back to Asmonean, which is Asmodeus, which turns into Hasmoneus, which turns into, I have it written down, but it turns into Hashem, basically from Asmodeus to Hashem. And this is why they use Hashem today. But continuing on, so the moon phases that are in the DSS, the Dead Sea Scrolls, are author's insertions. And we've gone over this many times. So when we look at a comparison of the complete Dead Sea Scrolls and other translations, we will see many of the moon phases found in the complete Dead Sea Scrolls are author's insertions and do not exist in the original text.
I didn't know that.
So,
Lovely.
yeah. So what we see, so this is from Giza Vermes, the complete Dead Sea Scrolls, in his Mishmarot, which is 4Q320. We're going to see, to show it from the east, and to cause it to shine in the middle of heaven, in the foundation of the creation, from evening till morning. And we see the quotation marks, so this is taken directly from there. Author's insertions. There is a full moon. This is 100% author's insertions. Just like in scriptures, when you see, Peter talking about his dream, and they put in quotations, this says all animals are made clean for food now. Well, we know that's not true, and it's an author's insertion. Just an example for the same thing that's going on here in Mr. Giza Vermes' translation, which is a really popular translation, but most do not know about the author's insertions. So as you can see, the parentheses are author's insertions, just as we see in many Bible translations, meaning they are insertions from the author's interpretation of what a particular verse can mean. So if we use Martinez, Florentino, Garcia's edition, which is what we're going to be actually continuing our reading from today, which is the Dead Sea Scrolls translated, we will see what's actually there in the original text. So to display itself from the east, shine in the center of the sky at the base of the vault from evening to morning. On the 4th day of the week, the sons of Gomul, in the 1st month of the 1st year. So what rises in the east and shines in the center of the sky in the spring? It's the sun. So we're going to explain why this is the sun and not the moon. And also, coming back to this, we can see in Mr. Giza Vermes' translation, there's a lot of wording changed as well, which we see a lot of done in his translation, which is why a lot of confusion goes around as well. And we'll get into that. So what rises in the east shines in the center of the sky. I just read that, sorry. So many ask how evening to morning, or about the evening to morning, and how can it be the sun? So the international date line is the boundary between one calendar day and the next. It passes through the Pacific Ocean, roughly following the 180-degree line of longitude, and deviating to pass around some territories and island groups. Which, speaking of this, there's actually a good video I downloaded and recorded about this international gate line, as that sister puts it. It's a really good video about this. But continuing, while the mainstream claims this is a solid line that never moves, I believe this line would vary depending on the vernal equinox, the Tekufa, and the sun's position. So the same as Yahuah's Sabbath day does. So although it's not going to be by much, it's going to move just like the Shabbat does. Well, the Shabbat doesn't move. It just, you all understand. So what we will see is the sun is setting in Israel, or as it's setting in Israel, it's rising in the western USA. So here we're catching the sun lining up, or as Enoch is describing, the sun setting in the west, going into the north to return to the east. So Enoch 72:5. So over Israel's evening, which would be daylight here in the U.S., it's lining up to make that straight line sunbeam as the sun is rising that lights up the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle and the temple, which is marking day 4 that morning. And there was no need for the priest to track a straight line shadow all day, as they would know that morning by this sign. And we'll show that picture again, but that picture I have, which is actually from Paul or Rav Shaul sides, what have you. But that straight line sunbeam lighting up the Holy of Holies in the center of the tabernacle and the temple. So now we're going to get into the word dukkha that many are claiming, Michael Wise, Giza Vermes, that are talking about, slivers and moon phases. We're going to show this is not true to Michael Wise's own admission. So beyond the problem of intercalation, another basic area of ignorance hindering complete understanding of the calendars involves the meaning of the recurrent term dukkha, or duke, some people call it. However it's pronounced, same thing. So the word describing one of the phases of the moon. Again, this is an author's opinion. And this occurs frequently in the synchronistic calendars, text 72, which is actually 4Q321 is the only place you're going to find dukkha. Again, another author's opinion. The system of lunar observation associated with the term, author's opinion, clearly underlies the text as well, even though they don't mention dukkha. So what they're saying here is all those insertions that they put in 319, 320, all these calendrical scrolls. He's saying here, well, dukkha is not actually found there, but we're just going to assume it should be there and insert it in there anyway. Again, author's insertions going on here about the word dukkha. So before this discovery of the scrolls, scholars had never encountered this word. Knowledge of the ancient Hebrew is far from perfect, and quite a bit of lost vocabulary has been recovered from the scrolls. So reasoning from etymology, dukkha most likely means carefully examined. So to the author's and etymology's own admission, which contradicts what he was just saying up here, oh look, it's certain phases of the moon. Well, no, it's not, by his own admission. It just means carefully examined. That's all it means. Nothing to do with Yarok. It's not even closely spelled to Yarok at all. But what is being examined? Scholars are still debating the options for dukkha. And a reasonable case can be made for either approach. So they're talking about the moon cycles and phases. The reason they say there's a reasonable case is because, as we saw above, the rabbis and the Talmudic doctrine syncs theirs up to these Mishnah cycles. This is not going to work. So by the author's own admission, he's being contradictory to what he was already saying up here. Is, oh, look, duke means a certain phase of the moon. Well, no, it doesn't. It just means carefully examined. Then they're saying, oh, we're just going to go. So the authors of this book do not themselves agree on what it means, but have decided to translate according to the full moon option. So they're just like, we don't know what it means. We don't know what it could mean. We're just going to go with this full moon right here and just go ahead and insert it, because that's what we think should go there. Well, this is wrong. So hence, we will take dukkha, to refer to the observation of the first crescents. So they're going by slivers of moons. Michael Weiss himself, this is an excerpt out of Michael Weiss's translation. So Michael Weiss here is admitting to saying, oh, look, we don't know what this means. He's being contradictory by saying, inserting moon crescents and phases, while also admitting it has nothing to do with them itself. It just means carefully examined. So we can see how contradictory these writers and interpreters and authors ascribed by the Hasmonean usurpers to cause confusion. This is why they add these things. So as you can see, the authors took it upon themselves to declare the meaning as different phases of the moon when scholars do not agree or know the meaning. Dukkha does not even exist in 4Q320, doesn't exist in 4Q319. It only exists in 4Q321. And we believe it's not a certain phase or sliver of the moon, but rather which gate it is rising and setting with the sun as a witness, not a determining factor. So on Robert Villa's video, he's talking about, oh look, the moon's giving us the oath. The moon, the moon, the moon. No. So we're going to get into that right here. So the sun gives us the oath, or the sign for the days, the weeks, the months, the years, Sabbaths, Jubilees, as written in Jubilees 2, verse 9. We can also see there is a sign for when the weekly Sabbath day will begin. Jubilees 2, verse 21, which we will also go over here in just a moment. Actually, it's right here. So he created therein a sign in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with us on the seventh day. So that sign is the sun, as we read here in Jubilees 2:9, the oath. It's not the moon. We don't see the moon anywhere in here. The moon is not giving us a sign. It's going to be a witness. So that's what I explained really right here. Verse 21 of Jubilees 2, we're seeing he created that sign which we should guard the Sabbath. Verse 9 shows us it's the sun. The sun is the marker, the straight line, the Tekufa, which marks day 4. This is also when the spring equinox happens every year on day 4, the Tekufa of the week, when the sun, moon, and stars were created to track the time, day 1, month 1, on day 4 of creation week. 3 days later is always the Sabbath day, the menorah, 4th branch, the longest, straightest branch. So Enoch 74:12, and the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day into everlasting, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. This is backed up by Wisdom of Solomon 7, verses 17 through 19. It is he who gave me true knowledge of the forces of nature, what the world is made of, how the elements behave, how the calendar is determined by the movements of the sun, the changing season, which again we see determined by the sun, and the constellations or the stars, and the cycles of years. So we see in Enoch 74 here, the sun and the stars bring in the years. The moon is not mentioned in this verse, either of these verses. This is also supported by Wisdom of Solomon. So the sun and the stars determine the calendar. This is more evidence that the author's false insertions of moon phases in the Mishmarot are incorrect. And they are not bringing in the years. A moon does not bring in the years. And all the verses around Enoch 74:12 all state the moon will be off 10 days every year. And it only has a 354-day cycle. So this is proving the translations that falsely insert moon here are in error. How can the moon bring in a 364-day year when it only has 354 days? And not to mention the plural, they do not advance or delay, is a big clue. So when they insert moon and take out sun and stars, it still says they as plural when it's speaking about the singular word moon. Big clues. So the calendar is what determines the priestly cycle, not the other way around. There are other years that match up to the same cycle as well. So you, Gina, Robert, state the cycle repeats itself every 294 years. This was found to be incorrect after careful examination. The moon cycles have a pattern of 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 5, 6. So you see, there is a reset cycle that makes it not land in the same order perpetually. So to say that every year 1 and year 4 are the same, every year 2 and year 5 are the same, or every year 3 and 6 are the same, isn't being truthful. And I just wanted to add, this is actually what Marissa wrote to Robert Villa in Messenger when he said, if you found any errors, please message me and I'll check it out. To this day, he still has not read Marissa's messages to him. So we're going to read it to you right now. I posted this on Facebook as well for him to read. He read it, as he's responded several times. But again, this is Marissa's unanswered questions proving that they are incorrect about what they are saying. And thank you, Sister Marissa, for all of your fabulous work that you do. Let me check if you're in here. Yeah, you're in here.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm like, yep.
We can't say that he's read it, because if he's read it, he would have to face the truth. So I think he's just ignoring it. I don't even believe he could even have read it, because he would have been like, yeah, makes sense. But he can't, because he's so hyper fixated on this lie that he's created. And
That's
then
called
the lie,
being willfully ignorant.
that's correct. Willfully ignorant. And just like he said, Ken, email him. And then I said, why even bother emailing you? You don't even respond. Guess what he said? I know.
Yeah. He said, I know.
He literally just doesn't care. Doesn't care. That is so sad. It really is. I'm laughing, but it's like, I am so shocked. Really. I'm shocked because it's so horrific.
Rotten. That's what it is. Rotten fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly. And yeah, that's what I'm going to show here as well, because I basically I took the screenshots that Katrina had sent and I just translated them all. I kind of reworded it here and there so it's not word for word.
That's perfect. That's fine.
So yeah. So where was I? Okay, so the reason is why it's not going to line up properly is the solar cycle is the 365.24, not 364. The moon doesn't fall behind 10 years every year. Rather, it's 11.24. Marissa researched. What's that?
You said 10 years every year, 10 days every year.
Oh, wow, I did say that. Oh, goodness. Let me fix that. Thanks for pointing that out.
Iron sharpens iron, brother.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that. Wow. Awesome. All right. So Marissa researched the moon from every angle to see if it shows us when to intercalate. This should actually be a comma, not a period. So, or if it's for sabbatical and jubilee years. So using the menorah on Gregorian weekdays is not right. And as this method doesn't use the luminaries as the foundation at all, but rather a man-made week. How would the sons of Zadok have known to intercalate to a Wednesday when the Gregorian calendar didn't exist at this time? An intercalation is something we should be observing from Yahuah. That is the oath or sign, not a man-made week. If you intercalate a week every 6 years, your years will begin drifting backwards from the Tekufa equinox. And in 100 years, your calendar will begin in the winter. This was brought up to Gina Sparks. Her response was, "Oh well, I'll be dead by then, so it's not a concern." I don't think this is a correct attitude to have about such an important matter at all. And that's so true. Like, if we're going to brush it off and say, "Oh, well, I'll be dead by then," is that really the kind of truth seeker that, we should be listening to? Because that's not truth at all. That's just finding an excuse to make it fit for now. And who cares about the rest, Imagine if Moses would have written scriptures like that. Like, I'm just going to write down what I think fits. Who cares about, 100 years in the future? Where would we all be right now if this was Moses's attitude? So she has chosen this method, in my opinion, because it's the only way that would make the most sense to her based off the priestly cycles. We have tracked the priestly cycles for the claimed 294 years, which isn't even found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, by the way. And they don't miss a beat. There is no evidence of a week intercalation, and to suggest they all served in this extra week is speculation at best. The pattern is always the 5-6-5-6-5-6-5-5-6. There's no room or evidence of a fifth-year intercalation in your method, which would be needed to keep everything in sync. Oh, that's actually misspelled. So as far as the stars are concerned, Gina has been asked what exactly did she notice in the stars' alignment that indicated whether or not to intercalate. She never gave specifics, and we were told to observe it for ourselves, therefore not backing anything up with evidence. So Marissa, use the STAR app to try and understand this without just taking someone's word for it. And it appears Gina uses the astronomical time to determine her year start in combination with the Gregorian weekdays, which both are man-made. After numerous hours spent recording the lunar cycle, Marissa has found they cannot be replicated indefinitely to determine the years, which a popular belief, which is what they're saying, Gina and Robert, is that the lunar cycle, or a full moon phase, and the solar cycle, the Tekufa equinox day, will sync up with the Gregorian weekday, which is a Wednesday, to replicate creation week every 294 years. So, however, the moon is not reliable in this scenario. So this is everything Marissa has found as well, like this whole paragraph, basically, everything written right here. So on 3/20/2019, which is what they're claiming is their sync up date to a Wednesday, the moon was 100%. So on 3/20 in 1726, 294 years before, the moon was only 92%. Then 294 years back from that, the moon was at 77%. And again, not to mention this 294-year cycle is not found in the DSS. Nowhere.
Hey, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, when I looked at this was when we were all like excited about Gina's calendar. When we were all like, before we came to this understanding about the equinox during the year. So like, when I discovered that, it wasn't out of like a malice, like a wanting to prove her wrong or anything like that. I just wanted to, uh, do the research myself and see the evidence myself for what she was claiming. And then it didn't work out. And that's when I brought it to her. And she was just like, well, I won't be around in 100 years. So I just want you guys to know that, like, this was not, this information that Jeremy's sharing that I found was not, to bash her at all. I was trying to prove her right, but ultimately she's wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I was really, really, really so excited about her calendar at first. I was like, oh, wow, she has really researched this. Wow, it's incredible. You mean we're going to have these priestly cycles as witnesses? And I was like, this just will be fabulous, right?
It was
Yep.
incredible.
And then it turned out that, Marissa actually did her due diligence as a Berean, and she tested it. She did the work, and that's what we need to do. And boom. And as soon as, that all fell apart, I was devastated. Because I wanted Gina to be true, because she has been such a light for me and a help with the Zadok calendar and just an inspiration. And then all of a sudden she started coming out with the equinox. She disregarded it. She said, she kept going, where in scripture can we see the sun is for anything, or the equinox is for anything, or where is it? And it's like, well, Genesis 1. And she said, yeah, that's not good enough for me. I'm like, wow, that's not good enough for you? Where did you go, Gina? Where did you go? And then it was just fast pace down, this rabbit trail that now she just is so invested in. And they do incredible work, like when it comes to putting a website together, and they make incredible presentations. However, you could see the deception right before your eyes when they explain it. The hypocrisy. Using the priestly courses and using the luminaries as a witness. Like, what? I was devastated. And she is so in my prayers. But yeah, when Marissa found that, I said, we can't go on doing this. We have to do better. We have to make it right. Because again, what I said on the live, I think that really permeated Jimmy, was that, we are supposed to be a light. And when we are so, all of us are on the Torah community. All of us were on all these different calendars. It is disunity, and you could see the Christians don't want to be a part of this because of the disunity, the arguing on Facebook when it should be in private, and all these kinds of things, the character slander when it comes to when we should be even talking about scripture. And then it turns into these gaslighting things, and it's just so embarrassing that, even the Satanists have more unity than the Torah movement. And it is a disgusting reality. And it's based off of pride and based off of, the lying pens of the scribes and the authors' insertions, and we just got to do better. There's more unity with atheists and Satanists than there is with the truth. And it's just, it makes me sad. And the fact that these people won't even join the live and talk to us about it, talk to us in private about it, they refuse. And then now we're trying to do it in public because that's what scripture says to do. We tried to go to them in private. It doesn't work. And so when we see, these people in error, make an example so others may fear. We can't do the lies. We have to come out of them.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say too, when the moon phases proved out incorrect, I held on so hard to that Saturday Sabbath. Sorry about my kid. I really did not want to let that go. I didn't want to be odd from all the people in the Torah communities around me. We have to be willing to die to ourselves to know Yah's truth. And we have to be willing to search a matter out, even if it makes us uncomfortable. Like the idea of shifting the Sabbath day made me uncomfortable. I had to be willing to do that. And so I feel like the very best term for people who are unwilling to test all things because they are unwilling to change their mindset is that willful ignorance. And so that's what we're witnessing in a lot of these other people that are heading their calendars and, promoting their calendar understanding, is that they are just so vehemently unwilling to test the things that we're sharing. And that is why these people will not read the messages that I've sent them or that Ken sent them or that anybody sent them, is because they don't want to see.
These are all Zadok people you're dealing with?
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
We can't fall into that, guys.
They've already gotten past all the Dead Sea Scrolls, as Essene garbage and sun worshippers and all that. They've already gotten past all that stuff that the rest of us kind of were deceived with. Huh, that's sad. Well, I'll keep on praying because, they're brethren, even if they're not brethren fully, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why we keep reaching out to them to say, hey, I even invited them. I said, hey, let's work together. Let's reason together through scriptures, and we can show you walking it through scriptures in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And, of course they have not accepted, but, this is why we're reaching out to them to say, hey, look, we're just trying to show and walk together through scriptures, and we can figure this out.
You got to study to show yourselves approved.
Yeah.
Correct.
And the thing of this is, once the heart's ready to follow anything the Father shows, can right at the right time, to it did it again. But if they have hearts for him, you just can't see right now, he can take care of that in his time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, I'm just going through this quickly as well, because, just to show them, hey, look, this is what we found. Like, here, let me finish up real quick, because this is literally it. So what they are proclaiming is going against what we find in Jubilees chapter 6, verses 36 through 37. Oh, yeah. How did they know it was a Wednesday 1,000 years ago? Yeah, exactly. And that's what I said too.
Yeah, because the
So,
Pope told them.
yeah, the Pope told them. That's right. Yeah. All right. So Jubilees 6:36 through 37. There will be those who assuredly make observations of the moon and how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order, making an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and fests and jubilees. So if the sons of Zadok had jubilees as their foundation, and it warns us about making observations of the moon, why do some insist that they were observing moon phases? And that's my biggest question. Why would they insist they are tracking slivers of moons in the Zadok community when they specifically are showing us in their own writings they don't do that? We're not to do that.
You know, when you were reading that, I mean, it's just tears are coming in my eyes. It's making me cry for those that are so still in darkness, and for how long I was in darkness, not understanding this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all been there too. We were all in darkness before this understanding. And, you know, yesterday we were doing it.
He knew we would believe lies, you know? He knew we would believe lies. And he just kept working with us and brought us to understand more and better. I'm sorry, yesterday what?
Oh, no worries. Yeah, no, I agree. So, yeah, I was just going to say yesterday, me, Katrina, and Marissa were doing a presentation on Ambassador of Yah's TikTok live he was doing. And so many people were, you know, hungry for this information. You know, I was getting blown up in private messages on TikTok. Everybody was wanting, you know, the article, to the invite link to the group. We may have a couple here. Yeah, I think, yeah, we have a couple brothers and sisters here that were there yesterday. So
It was so
you know,
refreshing to see the hunger. It was so refreshing to see the people in the comments just really gravitate to this truth. It, you know, amongst doing, you know, all this that we do all week and trying to shed the light, it was amazing. Brother Jimmy has such an incredible fellowship. I mean, there was like 150 plus people.
Yeah, it was awesome.
150 plus people listening in. He has a great group of people. And yeah, Jimmy had the right time and everything. It's just he didn't really fully understand the equal day and equal night. And it was just, wow, it was incredible. But now, you know, now he gets it because he, you know, humbly, I called him up one day. I said, Jimmy, I gotta talk to you about this. It's just listen. And he got on the phone and he assessed it, and he took a while to really, you know, test it. And he came back and he's like, you can't unsee it once you see it. And it was just beautiful.
Yeah, praise Yah.
Even Libby, you know, same thing with Libby. She had this calendar for since she was 23 years old. Praise Yah, he gave her she's been walking this calendar out for 23 years. All she needed was that little puzzle piece. Creation week, just blows our minds. It's so incredible.
Yeah, truly. And yeah, Libby alone, she found it when she was in her 20s, and she's in her 70s now, so that just shows you. And praise Yah. And I'm praying she'd be able to make more of our meetings here to discuss more of what she's found. We all love listening to Libby. It's great. So, yeah, let's continue, and we'll just continue here proving out the calendar through scriptures. So, in case you didn't know, I've kind of revamped this section of my article a bit to make it have more clarity and to be less confusing, basically. So right here, starting in Genesis 1 through 5, so we're going to see creation, which is before the counting of days. So in the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Ruach of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. So this is when day one begins, which is when the light comes to be. This is what starts the counting of days. So Elohim said, "Let light come to be," and light came to be. And Elohim saw the light that it was good, and Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Then there came to be evening, there came to be morning, day one. So here we can see on day one, there was a formless void of darkness that existed for an unknown amount of time. The light coming to be is what begins the counting of days, or time, like flipping a light switch. So without understanding this light of Genesis 1:3 and the light of Genesis 1:14, so Genesis 1:3, the light being Messiah, Genesis 1:14, the light being the sun, there's no chance of understanding the calendar of Yahuah. So this is found right here in Genesis, what we are seeing, what we see through the Dead Sea Scrolls and Creation Week. So taking this into account, we can see there is a division of time before time, or a divider that is seen at the beginning of Creation Week. Since Creation Week is a standard to start each year, we must take this void of time into account as well. This is the divider day that separates the years. Yahuah works in divisions. He divides the light from the darkness. He divides the days. He divides the weeks. He divides the months and the seasons as well. So why wouldn't there be a yearly divider for the weeks? And there is. This divider day keeps the calendar in sync with the heavenly markers each year without drifting behind them or ahead of them, then adding 7 days to the year to catch back up. Yahuah didn't give us the heavenly signs and then tell us to wait until a Wednesday, or let the signs drift forward or backwards each year to try to catch back up to them. Nor did the Gregorian week as we know it today exist when Yahuah created everything in the beginning. Why would the sons of Zadok align Creation Week to a Wednesday that didn't even exist at that time? So here's a visual example of what we're talking about. Genesis 1:1-2. This is that void of time before the light coming to be started the counting of the days. This is going to be our standard to start our Creation Week each year, which we are going to get more into. So Jubilees 2 verse 9, Elohim appointed the sun to be a great sign on earth, for days, Sabbaths, months, festivals, years, Sabbath of years, jubilees, and for all seasons of the years. The sun is a great sign for all of this, which is written in Jubilees 2:9. We can also see that there is a sign when the weekly Sabbath day will begin. So the same chapter, so Jubilees 16 through 17 is explaining how the Sabbath day, how it is important, how it is his mark for us. Then Jubilees 2:21 goes even further to show, so he created therein a sign in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with him, or us, the angels, on the seventh day. So in verse 21 of Jubilees 2, there is this sign he created to guard the Sabbath. So we just went over this a bit as well. Verse 9 shows it's the sun, the straight line, marking day 4. This is when the spring equinox Tekufa happens. Day 1, month 1, day 4 of creation week. 3 days later is always the Sabbath day. Why would there be a sign the angel of Yahuah is mentioning in Jubilees if the Sabbath was always a never-ending cycle of 7 days? We also cannot have a sun sign happen day 3 before the sun was made on day 4. So the sun's analemma in the from vernal equinox to vernal equinox also show us a 365-day count in between. Job alludes to this divider day as his day of birth in Job chapter 3. So Job 3:6, that night let darkness seize it. Let it not be included in the numbering of days of the year. Let it not come into the number of months. Also in Genesis 5:23 through 24, all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Not just a coincidence there. So as we can see, Enoch walked the earth 365 years. The divider day would be, quote unquote, day 365, although it is not counted in the numbering of days or months and years, as Job himself alluded to. Also, Jubilees 6:30 tells us the yearly 364-day count begins at creation and is numbered in 52 weeks of 7 days. So I actually had to fix that because it's Jubilees 1, which I have to add that as well, but let me continue. So Jubilees 6:30 through 33. All the days of the command shall be 52 weeks of days, which is 52 weeks of 7 days. These shall make the entire year complete. Thus it is engraved and ordained on the tablets of the Shamayim. There's no neglecting this command for a single year, from year to year. And you shall command the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days. And these shall constitute a complete year. So why are they being specific and showing us several times this 364 days? Well, because the solar cycle is 365. So, and these shall constitute a complete year, and they shall not disturb its time from its days and from its festivals, for all shall fall out in them according to their witness. And they shall not leave out any day or disturb any festivals, but if they neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they shall disturb all their seasons, and the years shall be dislodged from this order, and they shall neglect their laws. Also here in Lamentations 2:6, there's some like Jason Robb who are saying, oh, that's not about the Sabbath being lost. Clearly it is. So he has demolished his booth like a garden. He has destroyed his place of meeting. Yahuah has made the appointed times and Sabbaths to be forgotten in Zion, and despises sovereigns and priests in his raging displeasure. So this clearly shows the Sabbath day was lost. It can be forgotten, as we see. How can this be if it was a constant 7-day endless cycle from year to year? Why would there need to be a sign each year to know exactly when the seventh-day Sabbath was if there wasn't a yearly division of the weekly cycle? So we see a three... Oh, go ahead.
No. I just said, well said, Jeremy. Really well said.
Oh, thank you, brother. All praise to the Most High.
I agree. Just like even Nick Vanderland says, he keeps insinuating there's 364 days in the year. Well, why does he keep insinuating that there's 364 days only? If if there's more. It's just, yeah, well said, Jeremy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
That was Job what? Oh, sorry.
Oh, Job chapter 3.
Verse.
6.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. So, all right. So we're going to get into these two scrolls right here. So we don't lose our place. I already have them up here to walk this through for those who still don't understand this quite yet. So scroll 4Q324D lays out the days, months, and festivals exactly the day they should fall on the calendar. Using the fragments found, we can reconstruct precisely as the sons of Zadok did the true calendar. So I'm using column 1 here as an example, showing the first month because it has quite a few festival days in there, the Passover, unleavened bread. So the beginning of the first month on day 4, Tekufa, equinox, vernal equinox, day 4 of the week. Doesn't say a Wednesday. Some authors' insertions will put Wednesday in there, but that's not what it says. So on the 4th in it is a Sabbath. Yep. On the 11th in it is a Sabbath. On the 14th in it is the Pesach, the Passover, which is week day 3. On the 15th in it, the Feast of Matzot, unleavened bread, which is week day 4, very specific. On the 18th in it is the Sabbath. On the 25th in it is the Sabbath. The waving of the sheaf is on the 26th in it, after the Sabbath. Weekday 5 in it falls the 30th day of the month. And then the beginning of the second month is on weekday 6. On the 2nd of the second month is the Sabbath. On the 9th Sabbath and the 16th Sabbath. So it's very specific, and it only speaks about important days. It doesn't describe the beginning of the first month on the 4th day, then we have day 5, then day 6, then Sabbath on it. No, it doesn't describe the days that have no importance. So this scroll shows the exact days every month special days fell on, every 1st and 30th day of the month, every Sabbath day, every festival, and the 4 seasonal days, or the 31st day every 3rd month that divide 4 seasons. all kept and recorded by the sons of Zadok in the Qumran community. So what we found here in 4Q324D, the location of the word vacate here, which is in column 5, verses 9 and 10, also column 6, verse 1, is going to complete the entire sentence. So vacate is referring to a large amount of missing text. So what we're going to see, verses 9 and 10, column 5, 4Q324D, on the 28th of the 12th month, in it is a Sabbath. On, then we have vacate. Excuse me. And then after vacate, it continues on. Weekday 2, and it falls the 30th day of the month. Again, very specific. Weekday 2, 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional, which is the 4th seasonal intercalated day of the 12th month. So vacate is before this here. So it's important to notice because, as mentioned previously, only important and special days are recorded in this scroll. Normally, there would be no text that would exist in this location unless it's an important date. And it is. This is the exact location the yearly divider day falls on, after the last Sabbath of the year, which is the 28th day of the 12th month. What other large amount of text would be missing if it was just a normal day, which is what a lot of people claim about that day? Another interesting find, which is in 4Q394, also known as 4QMMT, we're going to find this. So Giza Vermes, Michael Wise translations are all going to add a whole lot in this specific verse here, whereas Florentino, Garcia, Martinez, he puts clear brackets and distinctions where insertions were made. So when you take those brackets out, this is exactly what we're going to see in the original text on the scroll itself, without all the author's additions. Giza Vermes doesn't even make it clear where he added things. He just throws it in there like that's what it's meant to say. No. So anyway, a Sabbath in it, which is talking about this 28th day of the 12th month. After the Sabbath, a day is added, but a blank is added. These 3 dots mean just like a single word or two is missing. And the year is complete in 360 blank days, but we know that's a 4 because 364. And then remainder of the line is blank in 4Q394. That's what, instead of putting vacate, he puts this. So this fragment is going to show what is missing in this fragment here where vacate is located. So when we put both of them together, we combine them together and we insert the missing text, just like they do in their translations. So on the 28th in it is the Sabbath. Then the bracket to show where 394 is. After the Sabbath, a day is added, and the year is complete, 364 days. Then the bracket. Weekday 2 and it falls the 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional. So really quickly, I can bring up the 12th month of the calendar just to show you what we're talking about here. Let me change the screen. Here we go. So here we're going to see the 12th month. And just as we read, the 28th of the 12th month is that last Sabbath of the year. After it, a day is added, and the year is complete. Then the 29th, then the 30th, fall day 2, just like the scroll says. 30th of the month falls on day 2 of the week. Day 3 is that additional seasonal intercalated day. Just like we see here. All right, so back to here. So continuing on, since we just talked about the Mishmarot, the priestly cycles, and the false insertions, I'm going to kind of skip past all that. But what I wanted to point out here, so this is 4Q320, just like we went over before. To display itself from the east, shine in the center of the sky, at the base of the vault, from evening to morning on the 4th day of the week, the sons of Gamul in the first of the year. What rises in the east and shines in the center of the sky in the spring? The sun does. So to clarify, here's going to be, again, our interpretation of that verse. So the sun rises due east, shines at the celestial equator on the horizon at dawn, as night becomes morning, on day 4, Gamul, in the first month of the first year. So we just went over all the other references that show day 4, and we're going to get more deeper into that as well. I really just wanted to explain this part because there's some confusion about 320, and people ask, well, how can that be the sun? This is why. Many ask about the evening to morning and how can it be the sun. The international dateline is the boundary between one calendar day and the next. And I know we just read this. I'm just kind of going over it again for those who are just joining. So it passes through the Pacific Ocean, roughly following the 180-degree line of longitude, deviating to pass around some territories and island groups. So while the mainstream claims this is a solid line that never moves, I believe this line would vary depending on the vernal equinox and the sun's position. The same as Yahuah Sabbath day does. So what we're going to see is as the sun's setting in Israel, it's rising here in the western USA. We're catching the sun lining up, or as Enoch 72:5 is describing, the sun setting in the west to return to the east as it goes to the north. So over Israel's evening, which would be daylight here in the U.S., it's lining up to make that straight line sunbeam as the sun is rising that lights up the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle and the temple, marking day 4 that morning. There was no need for the priest to track a straight line shadow all day, as they would know by that morning this sign. So real quick, let me scroll down to this sign just to show you. And then we'll go back over this sign right here. Tekufa, marking day 4 as the sun is rising in the morning, lighting this up. Marking absolutely day 4. That very morning. No guessworks, no, well, what about this, what about that? Nope, we see it right there. So again, 4Q320, 4Q324. We can also see in 4QMMT, the rest of 4QMMT as it goes through it, speaks about the importance of day 4 as well. So since we already went over all this, there's going to be many verses that will also allude to day 4 and the equinox Tekufa being the sign from Yahuah to begin the counting of months. Exodus 27:13, Exodus 38:13, Exodus 40:1-2, 2 Chronicles 29:3 and 17, 1 Samuel 25, Exodus 12:1-2, Job 38:4-5, James 1:16-17, and I'll just read this little last section because it's kind of important. Actually, I'll just read the whole thing. Do not go astray, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, his esteem, Yahuah's esteem, with whom there is no change or turning shadow. No turning shadow on the equinox, Tekufa. So using a stick and marking the shadow throughout the day, the sun's shadow will cast a straight line during that day. The shadow will curve or shift on other days and not be straight. So, fourth commandment, keep the Sabbath. Fourth day of creation, sun, moon, and stars created. Fourth gate, in Hebrew, Gadol Dalet. Fourth letter of the alphabet, which means the door or the passageway. The fourth menorah branch, longest, straightest branch. 3 branches later, the 7th branch, the Shabbat. So the word Tekufa, which means equinox, solstices as well, can be found in our Bibles today. It means the equinoxes and solstices, or the turning of the year, and its seasons. The Tekufa is a celestial event designed by Yahuah as a sign for determining time. There are 4 Tekufas each year: the vernal and autumnal equinoxes, and the summer and winter solstices. The spring equinox determines day 4 of creation week, when the monthly cycle restarts for the year. So here's the Strong's Concordance, H8622, Tekufa. Circuit, cycle, season, revolution. Again, we see circuit, cycle, season, revolution, meaning a revolution, a course, a lapse. It's circuit of a year, the sun circuit, the circuit of a season. So the 4 Tekufa, Tekufot. So again, this is going to be from the Jewish Encyclopedia's definition, but even they know what the Tekufa are. But many in our own community don't understand this. So the 4 Tekufa are Tekufa Nisan, the vernal equinox, when the sun enters Eri. And Tekufa Tammuz, of course they're going to name them after their Babylonian gods. Tekufa Tishri, Tekufa Tibet. And we see vernal equinox, summer solstice, the autumnal equinox, and then the winter solstice. These are the 4 Tekufa. As we just saw in the other scrolls up here, Tekufa, the beginning of the first month on day 4 Tekufa. So, Psalm 19, 1-9, again going into more detail about how the luminaries, the sun, the stars, the moon, they have no speech, but their voice is heard. Why? Because they are giving us that oath, the signs, for years and longer periods of times. Their line has gone out, the straight line shadow, all of these things. That straight line shadow we know today is going to be actually the straight line sunbeam they used in the temple, the tabernacle, and at Qumran with their sundial. They tracked this very day from the morning sunrise. So Ezekiel 43, 1-5 is going to be a perfect example of what we're seeing here. And the Ruach of Elohim took me and brought me into the inner courtyard, and see, the esteem of Yahuah filled the house by way of the gate facing east towards the sunrise. So now we just learned about the 364 yearly count, measured by the counting of 52 weeks of 7 days, which is our wheel within the wheel. One of the wheels within the wheel. One of the cycles, of actually 3 cycles, we see. So now we're going to get into the solar cycle, the monthly cycle. So Enoch 74:12, and the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. Okay, so this is just a recap again, because we've gone over all this. Enoch 74:12, Solomon 7:17 through 19, both stating the sun and the stars are bringing in our years. 2 witnesses saying sun and stars only, not the moon. So this is again what we had just read earlier. So the calendar is determined, we're just going to start right here because we already read all the above. So the calendar is determined by the movements of the sun and stars, as we can see all throughout scriptures. They determine the years, when they begin and when they end. We cannot trust Rome or the synagogue of Hasatan to have kept Yahuah's true Sabbath day or his calendar. In all of our studies, we have found throughout Scripture, the Sabbath day is not always on a Saturday. And in fact, you will not find the word Saturday in Scriptures at all. The divider day every year is what separates the years and divides the numbering of days, perfectly matching the markers and heavenly signs Yahuah has given us to determine these things. So this is where we're going to get into the wheel within the wheel within the wheel. So we can see also there is a weekly, yearly count, which consists of 52 weeks of 7 days, equaling 364 days. This is going to be our yearly count we're told to count in scriptures. So which the book of Jubilees shows us and tells us this is our yearly count starting at creation. Enoch describes to us the yearly monthly count of 364 days, which is 12 months of 30 days plus the 4 intercalated seasonal days, which will also equal 364 days. The cycle of the sun, moon, and stars to track the monthly and seasonal count. So we see there are 2 different 364-day counts, which gives us that wheel within the wheel, and the yearly overlap cycle of the weekly count and the monthly count of 364. So each start on a different day of creation week. Our yearly divider day is before day 1 of creation week, as Genesis 1 through 2 describes to us, and 4Q394. Both show us as this is our yearly 364-day count. The monthly divider day will happen on the straight line shadow day, or the spring equinox. So the monthly seasonal, the cycle of the sun and the stars has a different divider day location than our yearly divider day. This is why there's a lot of confusion. So what we're seeing is 2 cycles of the year, 2 wheels, 2 divider days, 1 for each cycle to keep them lined up perfectly each year. This is why there are some who claim the day after the equinox is when we should start our count, but we should be following the Creator, Yahuah, and start our counting of days when he did, on day 1 of creation week, not following the creation and starting our count midweek. Both counts work together to keep the yearly cycle hitting the heavenly marks year after year. Yeah, exactly. If there's no day 0, the wheels would get offset. So I have a visual right here, actually, which I made. Yeah, why can't others see this? Yeah, precisely. So here I have the Gregorian dates, the Babylonian Gregorian dates. And this is going to be basically the yearly cycle I was just describing. So our creation week count, day 364, which would be March 15th of the Gregorian, the 28th of the 12th month, last Sabbath of the year, 7th day, day 364. Our yearly divider day, which is March 16th, day 0, as per Genesis 1 and 4Q394. Then 317, which Gregorian actually marks as St. Patty's Day, because they mock and they keep track of it. So day 1 of 364, also day 1 of the week. We have day 2 of the week and 364, day 3 of the week and 364, and the seasonal divider day, which is 319. Then 320, the Tekufa equinox, the head of months. Day 4 of 364 and the week. And then it continues on, the head of months, right here. Equinox, Tekufa. This is the monthly count. So this is where we're going to get our prophetic year that Brother Sean and Sister, why can't I think of her name? Apologies. The other sister was presenting as well. So day 360, according to the monthly cycle or the sun and star cycle of the year, day 360 is the last Sabbath of the year, 28th of the 12th month. Pretty amazing. Then we're going to get day 361 of, remember, the monthly count. Day 361 of the monthly count is going to be the divider day of our year. Then we get day 362, the 29th of the month 12. Day 363, the 30th of month 12. Day 364, which is the seasonal divider day. Day 3, creation week. Day 364 on the seasonal sun cycle. Then here, on the Tekupa, is going to be day 0 of the sun's cycle, which is day 1 of month 1. Then we get day 1 of 364, and it continues on, comes all the way back. This is where we get our prophetic yearly count that we will also see in David and Revelation as well. The 360-day count of 12 months of 30 days. That's how it lines up. The reason some people are putting their divider day and then saying, oh, we start our count after that, is because, like the priests we see in Ezekiel who turn their back on Yahuah's esteem to look at the sun, that's what they are doing, unfortunately. So yes, they have validation as why they're doing it, but they are looking at the wrong cycle, and they are following the creation, not the creator, which is Yahuah. These are going to be our two witnesses bringing in the yearly cycle every year, the weekly cycle of 364 days, and the monthly cycle of 364 days as well. This is the overlap I'm speaking about. So this is the 12 months of the 30 days plus the 4 seasonal divider days. This is the 52 weeks of 7 days with the blue representing the divider day here. This is the overlap we see, but when you put them together, they are the exact same length. Exact same length. Why? Because it's an overlap, like when you overlap a seam in the fabric or you overlap bricks on a wall. It's providing that strength and stability. These two witnesses that will bring in our yearly cycle, always hitting the Tekupas each and every year. Always. No adding days, no removing days, no falling ahead or behind the Tekupa. Hitting it every single year. So continuing, we'll go deeper into the sun's cycle and the star's cycle. So on first there goes forth the great light named the sun, and its circumference is like the circumference of the Shamayim, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the Shamayim and returns through the north in order to reach the east. Yep, and is so guided that he comes to that portal and shines in the face of heaven. So in this way, he rises in the first month, in the great portal, which is the fourth. So in verse 5, Enoch 72, we can see it showing us the sun, and it's entering into this portal of heaven, that portal in the north, going through the north, shining in the face of heaven. Then in that same way, he rises in the great portal, the fourth portals. So what we see is two portals. One is in heaven, the monthly cycle divider. The other is the great fourth portal, starting the monthly count. So on that day, the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly to its days, 364. So again, Enoch is describing the cycle of the sun and the stars. He's giving us the monthly 364 count here. Here in Enoch 72, we can see is defining the equinox, or the Tekupa. This is the heavenly marker for not only the day 4 of creation week, but the divider day of the monthly cycle each year, which is, as mentioned before, Enoch is describing the cycle of the sun, moon, and stars each year, thus showing us that specific wheel of the yearly cycle. This is why many will be confused and will have their divider day on the equinox, following the creation, like the priests who had their backs turned on the temple to look at the rising sun, and not our Creator, Yahuah. So again, we're seeing two wheels, the weekly 364 and the monthly 364, which work together to keep each year lined up perfectly with what Yahuah tells us with his heavenly markers. Enoch describes the yearly cycle of the sun, moon, and stars, while Jubilees describes the yearly count of days starting on day 1, week of creation, when the light came to be. 52 weeks of 7 days exactly. The sons of Zadok clearly saw these two wheels and used them together to determine Yahuah's true Zadok calendar. 2 witnesses. The 2 pillars, Yachin and Boaz, which means he shall establish, Yachin. He shall establish. What did he establish? In the beginning, he created the heavens and the earth. Then light came to be, marking day 1. Boaz in its strength. What's in its strength? Oh, look. That vernal equinox, the Tekupa, lighting up the Holy of Holies in the center of the temple and tabernacle. These are all the verses this can be found in. These are the verses this can be found in. these are our two witnesses each year, these two pillars, both keeping day 1, 2, and 3 of creation week before the sun, moon, and stars were created, all in alignment. So this is why we do a 364-day count, as reiterated several times in Enoch and Jubilees, but we experience 365.25. It's because there is a divider day each year. They lost track of the Sabbath because they forgot to start each year at 0. Yeah, Tim, so that's what we had just gone over a little bit as well. We're seeing two cycles, the wheel within the wheel cycle. So we have the creation week count, which this is when Yahuah tells us to start counting our days, as we can see by day 1 creation week, counting of days. This counting of days started when the light came to be in Genesis. So let me scroll down here. That light coming to be was like flipping on a light switch, starting the counting of days. Then we have evening and morning, ending day 1. Then that full sunrise in the morning, as the bottom of the sun breaks that horizon, day 2 starts. Because the blending in the morning is still part of the day before. So this full light comes to be day 2. Full light comes to be day 3. So forth and so on to the 7 days of creation, which starts at blank, 0. So we see the weekly creation count, our yearly 364-day count, as Jubilees tells us. And we see the monthly 364-day count, which is what Enoch is describing to us. The wheel within the wheel, which using both of those combined will keep the calendar in sync and give us our 360-day prophetic year that we see in Daniel's, or Book of Daniel, and Revelation as well. And Shabbat Shalom to all of those just joining in as well, or have been here. Glad everybody can make it. Wow, we got quite a few in chat. Praise Yah. Glad everybody can make it. All right. So the next thing I wanted to address, or not address, but continue our reading in the Dead Sea Scrolls. But before I do that, I just wanted to give a bit more room if anybody else had any other questions or anything.
Tim's just put a question in the chat.
Yeah, that's the one I just addressed. So the equinox, let's go back to it here. So as we saw, the equinox is marking day 4 of the creation week, which is on the Gregorian March 20th date. That's our Tekupa, our straight line shadow, straight line sunbeam, marking day 4 of creation week. But we see in Jubilees, the counting of days, and actually in Genesis 1, the counting of days started Genesis 1, 3 through 5. That's when our counting of days came to be, because what keeps track of the counting of days? The lights. So what we're going to see is this day, this void of time here that happened before day 1 in our week of creation. And again, Jubilees 2:9, the sign for the, what's the sign for these? The sun. Jubilees 2:21, he created therein a sign in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with us on the seventh day. Verse 9 tells us that sign is the sun. Then we go to the menorah method. Let me actually pull up the calendar here so I can show you. So what we're seeing here, this is month 1, Zadok Calendar. So what I'm speaking about, day 4, head of months, equinox, straight line shadow. 4th branch on the menorah, longest, straightest branch. The branches before it are all going to have a curve, just like what you will see when tracking the equinox. Then we get the straight line shadow on the equinox. Then after that, they will begin to curve the other way. So not only is the menorah a representation of our weeks, but it's a representation of what we should be tracking. The straight line shadow, straight line sunbeam. Then 1, 2, 3 branches later is going to be our 7th branch, or the 7th day of the week, the Sabbath. So the sign he's speaking about, Jubilees 2:21, straight line shadow of the sun, 3 days later is our Sabbath. That's how we are always going to know. And then we'll go to month 12 here again to show you. So no, this is month 1. I thought I went to month 12. Apologies. Hold on one second. Where is that? It is month 12. Why is it showing month 1? Interesting. I don't know why it's... Here, I'll just do this. Okay. No, wait. Here. So that last Sabbath of the year, the 28th of the 12th month, just as we read in all the Dead Sea Scrolls, after that last Sabbath, the day is added. That yearly count is complete in 364 days, just like we see in 4Q394. Then 4Q324 is going to continue on with that count. Day 2's the 30th day of the month. Day 3, that seasonal intercalated day. Then boom, Tekufa, starting our year again. Let's see. I'm not sure who Talitha is, or if you're in here, but I see you're blowing up the other group there. I can't read those at the moment, but I'll check it out when I get a chance. All right.
Oh, thank you, Talitha, for posting those. That's great.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to post more of those in the chat. That's perfect.
Or is that the those Omer counts?
Unless they were posted a different day. Let's see. Hold on. I thought that's what I said. Yeah. She's posting like
Okay.
the County of the Omer. I love it.
Wait, I am sharing the screen. Never mind. All right, so you guys already see what I'm seeing. So before we go on, does anybody have anything they would like to add or
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you've been talking for too long. Anybody want to add anything? This is this is a group thing. And by the way, we're just gonna pick randomly next week. Anybody that is on this call is gonna do this exact presentation next week. How about that?
Yeah.
Instead of Jeremy. So that everybody's paying attention. Right? I want this to be more of a group thing. So please, anybody, say something. We want to hear you. Questions, comments. Even if, we don't want to stray away from, any kind of questions that you may still have. Please feel free to interrupt and ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or add anything if you find anything, right? You can add if you found something.
Yeah, feel free to jump right in.
I nominate Katrina to go first next week.
Thanks, cousin. Thanks, cousin.
We'll follow your lead.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll go last. That way I can straighten the rest of them out.
There you go.
I know.
Hello.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, little fella.
So before we get into continuing our Dead Sea Scrolls, feel free to jump on in.
There's something that I've been thinking about. I know I do a lot of talking, and I keep this really brief. But I've been thinking about how a straight line shadow goes across the world on that particular day. It's almost as if it's a supernatural line more than a sort of, I don't know, it's got to be a physical sun line, but it must be an incredible thing to, if you think about it, wherever you are in the world, you get a straight line shadow. It's for me, it's really incredible.
Yeah, no, truly.
Yeah, that's what's blowing my mind about when Jason Robb says that he only uses the equinox. Like, what about that phenomenon that happens twice a year? It just boggles my mind that he doesn't recognize, and even pretty much Robert does the same thing. He sees it, it happens, but he ignores its day 4. I can't.
Also, are we missing out some importance of the beginning of Genesis? We know that the Genesis itself is a summary book. In the Gospel of John, it says quite clearly, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. I mean, and then it goes on afterwards to label the creation week. So there's an importance for this sort of beginning before the beginning of creation. Do you know what I mean? And that for us is the esteem of Yahuah, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we see, that the temple and the tabernacle both track that glory of Yahuah coming in, marking day 4 of the week always. I know we brought him up before, but that Dustin Hoffman guy, who's always giving us a bunch of stuff, or a hard time basically about the divider day. You know, we've walked it through scriptures with him so many times, and he just refuses to see that there's two different cycles going on here. And unfortunately, we had to block him because he started mocking and scoffing. But I wanted to bring him up as well because, you know, not only did I invite Robert Villa, Jason Robb, but I invite Dustin Hoffman on as well, too, so we can walk this through scriptures. No mocking, no scoffing, no name calling, because if that happens, you're going to have to be kicked out. But if you want to walk this together through scriptures, if you happen to listen to this on YouTube when I post it there, we are inviting you here as well, too, so we can walk it all through scriptures without going back and forth all day long on a Facebook post through comments. We can
Yeah,
just do it right here live.
we have noticed it actually works out better for everybody if it's actually a discussion rather than texting. Just like with Jimmy and Libby and all the people that we actually sat down with and was just like, let's go through all the scriptures. Usually works out better. I just don't think they wanna see it. Like,
Oh, yeah. That's the sad
or
part.
they could.
They don't want to see it.
Or
That's the sad part.
Yah's not allowing them to test maybe us to see if we're going to fight for the truth, or not. We're going to, succumb to peer pressure or the lies or the whatever. So it could just be a test.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And yeah, and reasoning together through scriptures is how we're supposed to do these things. And like I said, I invited them, and all of a sudden they got super quiet. Because yeah, all morning on Facebook, we were just going back and forth, back and forth. Then when I invited them on here so we can present face to face, I can show everything on screen. All of a sudden, nothing. There hasn't even been a response from either of them. And I tagged both of them in a separate post I made, inviting them here, showing the proof of the straight line shadow, Tekufa, marking day 4, always. And crickets. That's the expression we use here in the U.S. for, silence, because all you can hear is crickets. Yeah, exactly, Lee. Reason together. It's a win-win. Yeah, I noticed someone talking about what crickets meant.
Sorry, I'm just reading the chat here. My bad. So, yeah, you wondered what the cricket post was. Yeah, I noticed Ken was asking as well. Is she here, Claire? Did Miss Libby? Okay, all right. So we'll continue on with our reading of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the community rule. So this is going to be the Dead Sea Scrolls, translated, the Qumran Texts in English. And this is Florentino Garcia Martinez version. The main version I use in my article as well, because like I said, he shows the clear brackets and insertions, things of that nature. So let me zoom this in here so it's easier for everyone to read. Oops. Okay. So again, this is going to be the community rule. We're starting here in column 4. Just continuing our reading here. So if you remember before, we were discussing all this and how so far this is all lining up with scriptures, what we find in scriptures, things of that nature. They discuss, the angels of darkness, the sons of justice, what the sons of darkness do. So continuing, so eternal ages, and in all his deeds he takes pleasure forever. Of the other one, he detests his advice, and he hates all his paths forever. And then we see blank or vacate, and then another blank or vacate. These are the paths in the world. To enlighten the heart of man, straighten out in front of him all the paths of justice and truth, and establish in his heart respect for the precepts of Yahuah. It is a spirit of meekness, of patience, generous compassion, eternal goodness, intelligence, understanding, potent wisdom, which trusts in all. The deeds of Elohim depends on his abundant mercy, a spirit of knowledge in all the plans of action, of enthusiasm for the decrees of justice, of holy plans with firm purpose, of generous compassion with all the sons of truth, of magnificent purity, which detests all unclean idols. Detests all unclean idols. Yep. So of unpretentious behavior, with moderation in everything, of prudence in respect of the truth concerning the mysteries of knowledge. These are the counsels of the Spirit for the sons of the truth in the world, and the visitation of whose who walk in it will be for healing, plentiful peace, and a long life, fruitful offspring with all everlasting blessings and blessings, eternal enjoyment with endless life, and a crown of glory, with majestic raiment in eternal light. And then blank vacate. However, to the spirit of deceit belonging greed, fertility of hands in the service of justice, irreverence, deceit, pride, and haughtiness of heart, dishonesty, trickery, cruelty, much insincerity, impatience, much insanity, impudent enthusiasm, appalling acts performed in a lustful passion, filthy paths for indecent purposes, blasphemous tongue, blindness of eyes, hardness of hearing, stiffness of neck, hardness of heart, in order to walk in all the paths of darkness and evil cunning. And the visitation of those who walk in it will be for a glut of punishments at the hands of all the angels of destruction. for eternal damnation, for the scorching wrath of the Elohim of revenge, for permanent error and shame, without end, with the humiliation of destruction by the fire of the dark regions. And all the ages of their generations they shall spend in bitter weeping and harsh evils in the abysses of the darkness, until their destruction, without there being a remnant or a survivor among them. So as we can see, if we do not repent, turn, follow the ways, the Torah of Yahuah, we will be tossed into this lake of fire where our souls will be burnt into extinction, meaning you will no longer exist. Think about that. That is terrible. And like I said, this just goes with Revelation, Daniel, all the rest of scriptures. This is why it's so important to preach the truth, preach Yahuwah's truth, get people to listen and turn and repent. Now, this doesn't mean, force people to listen and things like that. If they're not going to listen, we just have to go on to the next. But this is a punishment for not listening to Yahuwah. So in these lies the history of all men. In their two divisions, all their armies have a share by their generations. In their paths they walk. Every deed they do falls into their divisions, dependent on what might be the birthright of the man, great or small, for all eternal time. For Elohim has sorted them into equal parts until the last day, and he has put an everlasting loathing between their divisions. Deeds of injustice are an abhorrence to truth, and all the paths of truth are an abhorrence to injustice. There exists a violent conflict in respect of all his decrees, since they do not walk together. Elohim, in the mysteries of his knowledge and in the wisdom of his glory, has determined an end to the existence of injustice, and on the occasion of his visitation, he will obliterate it forever. Boom, right there.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I got distracted with the kids for a while. But what are you reading out of?
So this is the community rules
Okay.
out of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, just continuing our reading from last week.
Okay. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. I just saw that chat in the chat there. So, yeah, let's talk about that after this for just a moment, because we do have our Sukkot planned out. Everything's ready to go. Tickets are available for purchase, and we can go into detail about that here after this. Share the link. Yeah, let me share the link. So that's the link of the translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls we're going to be reading from, or we are reading from. But it's Florentino, Garcia, Martinez, the Dead Sea Scrolls translated, the Qumran Texts in English. And again, I like this version. It's probably my favorite version because he shows clear distinctions where things are added or inserted from other scrolls, things like that. All right, so continuing. Oops. No, go back. So right here. So meanwhile, truth shall rise up forever in the world, which has been defiled in the paths of wickedness during the dominion of injustice. Apologies. So until the time appointed for judgment. Yep. That goes along with Enoch talking about, all souls, when we die, even post-millennial reign, we are still going into Sheol and waiting for that appointed day of judgment. So there is no, because we're, post-millennial reign, now we are the kingdom, and when we die, we go straight to heaven, things like that. No, still has to fit scriptures. So anyway, let me continue. So meanwhile, Elohim will refine with his truth all man's deeds, and will purify for himself the configuration of man, ripping out all spirits of injustice from the innermost part of his flesh, and cleansing him with the spirit of holiness from every irreverent deed. Yep, that's the washing our sins clean if we turn and repent and follow justice, which is the Torah. We follow Yahuah, what he has written for us, what Moses wrote down for us to follow, which came from the mouth of Yahuah himself. So he will sprinkle over him the spirit of truth like a lustral water in order to cleanse him from all the abhorrences of deceit and from the defilement of the unclean spirit. In this way, the upright will understand knowledge of the Most High, and the wisdom of the sons of heaven will teach those of perfect behavior. For there are those selected by Elohim for an everlasting covenant, and to them shall belong the glory of Adam, where there will be no more injustice, and all the deeds of trickery will be a dishonor. Until now, the spirits of truth and of injustice feud in the heart of man, and they walk in wisdom or in folly, in agreement with a man's birthright, in justice and in truth. So he abhors injustice, and according to his share in the lot of injustice, he acts irreverently in it, and so abhors the truth. For Elohim has sorted them into equal parts until the appointed end in the new creation. Yep, renewed creation actually. When heaven and earth are remade and become echad. So everything we're reading now fits exactly with everything we read in scriptures. Let's see, hold on one second. Let's see, we got column 5 here, and then, oh, come on, scroll over. Column 6. We'll try and read everything that's going on. Oh, come on. Everything going on here. Sorry. Technical difficulties. It's not wanting to cooperate. There we go. So from the previous page, times everlasting, and has given them as a legacy to the sons of men, so that they know good and evil. So they decide the lot of every living being in compliance with the spirit there is in him at the time of the visitation. And again, we see blank here, which means vacate, missing text. This is the ruler for the men of the community, This is the rule for the men of the community who freely volunteer to convert from all evil and to keep themselves steadfast in all he prescribes in compliance with his will. They should keep apart from men of sin in order to constitute a community in law, Torah, and possessions, and acquiesce to the authority of the sons of Zadok. We don't see a scene there. We see sons of Zadok. Which, keep that in mind while we read this entire book. Throughout its entirety, no matter which translation you will use, you will never once see the word Essene. You will never see them call themselves Essene, but we will see this many times, the sons of Zadok. The priests who safeguard the covenant and to the authority of the multitude of men. Ezekiel 44. Of the community. Those who preserve steadfastly in the covenant. By its authority, decision by lot shall be made in every affair involving the law, property, and judgment, to achieve together truth and humility. 100%. Justice and uprightness, compassionate love, and seemly behavior in all their paths. So where's the Pharisees talking about any of this? Oh, they don't, because they didn't care about any of this. They didn't care about compassion or being upright and having justice and humility. So no one should walk in the stubbornness of his heart in order to go astray following his heart and his eyes and the musings of his inclination. Instead, he should circumcise in the community the foreskin of his tendency and of his stiff neck in order to lay a foundation of truth for Israel, for the community of the eternal covenant. So again, circumcise your heart. That's what they're speaking about right here. Just like Paul was talking about. Just like Deuteronomy also mentions, circumcise your heart. They also mention it here. So they should make atonement for all who freely volunteer for holiness in Aaron, and for the house of truth in Israel, and for those being entered together, for the community, for the lawsuit, and for the judgment. They should proclaim as guilty all those who sabotage the decree. These are the regulations of behavior concerning all these decrees when they are enrolled in the community. So again, another important point to make here. People like to say, oh, look, these guys are making laws just like the Pharisees do, and this and that. Well, first of all, these laws aren't laws, they are regulations of people enrolled in this community. So everything they're teaching, as we can see, is founded in the Torah, and you have to follow these regulations to be part of this community. Whereas the Pharisees added to the laws, added to the Torah, saying, thus saith Yahuah, and enforce that on everybody around them. All right, so continuing, whoever enters the council of the community enters the covenant of Elohim in the presence of all who freely volunteer. Freely volunteer. He shall swear with a binding oath to revert to the law of Moses with all that it decrees, with a whole heart and whole soul, in compliance with all that has been revealed concerning it to the sons of Zadok. the priests who keep the covenant and interpret his will, and to the multitude of the men of their covenant who freely volunteer together for this truth, and to walk according to his will, Yahuah's will. Again, Ezekiel 44. He should swear by the covenant to be segregated from all the men of sin who walk along paths of irreverence. For they are not included in his covenant, Yahuah's covenant, since they have neither sought nor examined his decrees in order to learn the what? Hidden matters in which they err. We see this is very prevalent today still. Nothing new under the sun. All these people who we're going back and forth with on social media constantly, they don't seek or examine Yahuah's decrees to learn these hidden matters in which they themselves are erring by following their own hearts, what they feel is right. Yeah, surely not hidden. Like the divider day, hidden matter, like the division of the weekly cycle each year that requires a divider day each year. Yeah, exactly, Sumi. So by their own fault, because they treated revealed matters with disrespect. This is why wrath will rise up for judgment in order to effect revenge by the curses of the covenant, in order to administer fierce punishments for everlasting annihilation without there being any remnant. This is a serious matter, guys. The calendar is a serious matter for these very reasons. Yeah, that's why everything is set up so perfectly. I agree. So again, we see blank, vacate, missing text. Then he should not go into the waters to share in the pure food of men of holiness, for they have not been cleansed. This is talking about the mikvah, which is what John the immerser was doing, mikvahing in the purified, cleansing waters that we saw was coming down from where the temple was in Jerusalem. That water flowed here, and it created these baths for them. You read blank as vacate. Yeah, exactly. So what they're saying is there's a bunch of sin going on, unrepentance, stubbornness, things of that nature. They should not go into the waters. And then they can't share of the food or in the meals, for they have not been cleansed, unless they turn away from their wickedness. Repent. For it is unclean among all the transgressors of his word. Repent. Stop transgressing. Just like John says, transgressors of the law, the word, is sin. So no one should associate with him in his work or in his possessions in order not to encumber him with blameworthy sin. Rather, he should remain at a distance from him in every task. For it is... Oh, come on. Oops. Come on, let's not do this. Apologies. Why does it keep doing that? Come on. So, which is written as follows: you should remain a distance from every lie. None of the men of the community should acquiesce to his authority in any law
or regulation. No one should eat of any of his possessions, or drink, or accept anything from his hands, unless at its price. For it's written, shun the man whose breath is in his nostrils, for how much is he worth? For all those not numbered in his covenant will be segregated. Separated is what that means. They and all that belongs to them. No holy man should support himself on any deed of futility, for futile are all those who do not know the covenant, and all those who scorn his word, he shall cause to vanish from the world. All his deeds are uncleanness. Before him there is uncleanness in all his possessions. And when someone enters the covenant to behave in compliance with all these decrees, enrolling in the assembly of holiness, they shall test their spirits in the community, discriminating between a man and his fellow. In respect of his insight and of the deeds in law, under the authority of the sons of Aaron, those who freely volunteer in the community to set up his covenant and to follow all the decrees which he commanded to fulfill, under the authority of the majority of Israel. Those who freely volunteer to return within the community to his covenant, and they shall be recorded in the rule, each one before his fellow, according to his insight and his deeds, in such a way that each one obeys his fellow, junior under senior. And their spirit and their deeds must be tested year after year in order to upgrade each one to the extent of his insight and the perfection of his path, or to demote him according to his failings. Each should reproach his fellow in truth, in meekness, and in compassion, or in compassionate love for the man. Then blank, vacate, missing text. So no one should speak to his brother in anger or muttering, or with a hard neck, or with passionate, spiteful intent. And he should not detest him in the stubbornness of his heart, but instead reproach him in that day, so as not to incur a sin for his fault. And in addition, no one should raise a matter against his fellow in front of the many, unless it is with reproof in the presence of witnesses. Yeah. In this way shall they behave in all their places of residence. Whenever one fellow meets another, the junior shall obey the senior in work and in money. They shall eat together, and together they shall bless, and together they shall take counsel. In every place where there are 10 men of the community council, there should not be a priest missing among them. And when they prepare the table to dine, or the new wine for drinking, the priest shall stretch out his hand as the first to bless the first fruits of the bread, or the new wine for drinking. The priest shall stretch out his hand as the first to bless the first fruits of the bread, and of the new wine. And in the place in which the 10 assemble, there should not be missing a man to interpret the law day and night. Always, each man relieving his fellow. And the many shall be on watch together for a third of each night of the year, in order to read the book, explain the regulation, and bless together. Yeah, awesome. All about helping each other out, coming together, there being some kind of structure, things of this nature. And it's all going according to Torah.
So again, we see blank, vacate, missing text. This is the rule for the season of the... why does it do this? For the season of the many, each one by his rank. The priest will sit down first, the elders next, and the remainder of all the people will sit down in order of rank. And following the same system, they shall be questioned with regard to the judgment, the council, and any matter referred to the many, so that each can impart his wisdom to the council of the community. No one should talk during the speech of his fellow before his brother has finished speaking, and neither should he speak before one whose rank is listed before his own. Whoever is questioned should speak in his turn. And in the season of the many, no one should utter anything without the consent of the many. And if he, the examiner of the many, prevents someone having something to say to the many, but he is not in the position of one who is asking the questions to the community council, that man should stand up and say, I have something to say to the many. If they tell him to, he should speak. And to any in Israel who freely volunteers to enroll in the council of the community, the instructor, who is at the head of the many, shall test him with regard to his insights and his deeds. If he suits the discipline, he shall introduce him into the covenant so that he can revert to the truth and shun all sin. And he shall teach him all the precepts of the community. And then, when he comes to stand in front of the many, they shall be questioned, all of them, concerning his duties. And depending on the outcome of the lot in the council of the many, he shall be included or excluded. If he is included in the community council, he must not touch the pure food of the many while they test him about his spirit and about his deeds until he has completed a full year. Neither should he share in the possession of the many. When he has completed a year within the community, the many will be questioned about his duties concerning his insight and his deeds in connection with the law, the Torah. And if the lot results in him joining the foundations of the community, according to the priests and the majority of the men of the covenant, his wealth and his belongings will also be included at the hands of the inspector of the belongings of the many. And they shall be entered into the ledger in his hand, but they shall not use them for the many. He must not touch the drink of the many until he completes a second year among the men of the community. When the second year is complete, he will be examined by the command of the many. And if the lot results in him joining the community, they shall enter him into the rule according to his rank among the brothers, for the law, Torah, for the judgment, for the purity, and the placing of his possessions in common. And his advice will be for the community, as will his judgment. And then blank, and then blank. And these are the regulations by which they shall judge him in the scrutiny of the community, depending on the case. If one is found among them who has lied knowingly concerning goods, he shall be excluded from the pure food of the many for a year, and shall be sentenced to a quarter of his bread. And whoever retorts to his fellow with stubbornness and speaks with brusqueness, ruining the footing he has with him, and defying the... Come on. I don't know why it does this. So the authority of his fellow, who is enrolled ahead of him, he has taken the law into his own hands, and he will be punished for a year. And then some missing text. whoever enunciates the name which is honored above all, then blank. So far, do we have any questions or anything?
It seems like, and this is a comment actually, rather than a question, it seems like some of the New Testament uses similar language, and also the rules are quite they would cause someone to really think about the habits that they've developed in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we see reading through the Dead Sea Scrolls. It has that same language as the New Testament, same language as Paul. We can see everything is lining up with what we read in scriptures. And they care about the community itself. Like, we're supposed to love each other and, treat each other with respect and things like that, because we're all part of that same community.
Mm-hmm. My sister sent me a video out of the blue. On the Hutterites that I watched this morning, because I thought, well, they were a religious community, and some of the considerations that they have are similar, not exactly the same, because they came out of the brethren that were all kicked out of the Catholic Church back when. But living in community, there's a different focus than living by yourself. And one of the things that came to my mind, living by yourself in the society that we have today, one of the things that came to my mind was what they did if somebody lied about the goods that they were presenting to the community. And apparently the finances, the ledger there, apparently the father was not concerned about them having to shun that guy for a year. Him and his wife, they were taken out, so they didn't have to be shunned.
Yeah, interesting. And so, yeah, we do see some things where people should be not necessarily shunned, but basically avoided, and to stay away from them until they've shown repentance here. Which,
The
it makes
difference
a lot of
between
sense.
that and shunning, just for my own understanding, what's the difference between what you just said and shunning?
Yeah, so that's part. So if we commit a sin, we have to have that repentance. So as we see here in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and also we see this in scriptures all throughout Genesis, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, we're not supposed to mingle with people who sin. This is why it's kind of taken over the boundary of that in the New Testament, which is why Peter was given his dream by Yahuah, like, don't consider any man unclean. But if they have a heart and they're willing to listen and follow the Father, we can accept them in. So what they're talking about here is if somebody is blatantly sinning, which we've talked about before, a blatant, ignorant sin, there's not a sin offering for that. That person is to be taken outside the camp according to Genesis itself. They are following that command. If they have shown to be repentant, they are allowed back in. That's what we see through scriptures. I get it, shunning or whatever can be harsh, but there's certain rules to be in a community.
Yeah, that's why I was just wondering what's the difference between shunning and avoiding people until they repent. That's all.
It really just depends on the circumstances and are they truly repentant? Are they continuing in this behavior? Are they? There's many different factors that would come into play. This isn't just like shun somebody right off the bat and ignore them and things like that. This is just like repeat offenses, things of that nature. Which actually, when we read further into the scrolls here, we're going to see that's described more throughout as well.
They gave him a good year to get a sense of what's going on, which I thought was really neat. And then another year, and then also while you were reading, what went through my mind is because I thought, well, where did he get Matthew 18? It's not in the Old Testament. Now I know.
Yeah, there it is. So yeah, I think we'll pause our reading of the Dead Sea Scrolls there for this week, and we'll continue on column 7 in our next discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And does anybody have anything they would like to add or anything else they've seen, like Sister Ellie?
So where did you read that from? If we want to go through and read it again.
So I got the link right there in the chat. It's right above Sumi's message. It's the Dead Sea Scrolls translated, the Qumran Texts in English by Florentino, Garcia, Martinez.
I mean, where in it? Where did you start reading?
Community Rule.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks for reminding me, Jennifer. Yeah. So about Sukkot as well. So Marissa and Jennifer and Miranda have all been working together, and I know a few others, to bring Sukkot together for us this coming Sukkot. So we have a link. Tickets are available, but today's the Sabbath, so I really don't want to discuss like that part of it. But yes, we are planning. We have it all set up. We're just waiting. I know once most of us do purchase our tickets, it's going to go towards that deposit that we need to, secure the whole thing. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, let me just jump in, Jeremy. I just want to put this out there for you guys. When we make like a camping reservation like this, the campground requires a deposit, and we're not like a formal ministry or anything. And so it's like $1,000, guys. So it's not something that I can just stick my neck out for and put up front like that for our group, as much as I love everybody. So your best bet is, if you guys really want Sukkot to happen, and I do, if you guys could go on and purchase your tickets this week, not today, but this week, that would be perfect so that I can get that deposited and hold our camping spots.
Yeah.
Marissa, is that I was looking at the Eventbrite page. I don't know where it just went, but so it was saying like $45 a night for, what was it saying? For a
No,
tent site. So with that $45, is that per person or per night?
So the tent sites are $45 per person for all 9 nights. So it's $45 for 9 nights per
Okay.
person for a tent site.
And then will we be dividing that $1,000 deposit amongst everybody, or is
I'm
that
just saying if you guys could early purchase your tickets so that I can make this deposit to hold all of the campsites. You know, so if, like, say, Lisa, you're coming by yourself, just go
Mhm.
on and buy your one tent ticket, the $45, and that's great. And I super appreciate that to go towards me putting in this deposit early to hold the whole event, basically.
Okay, so what happens if there's only 5 of us, let's just say at the $45? What happens to that $1,000? Do we still have to pay the
Huh?
$1,000
No,
or
no, no, no.
oh,
That $1,000 is really just what me and the rest of the Sukkot planning committee are concerned about at this time. That
okay.
to reserve all of the camp spots that we're looking at reserving, which is about like 24 spots.
Okay.
That's what the campground is requesting of us to
Okay.
make a deposit on the entire event. And so I'm
Gotcha.
just saying if like people could early purchase their tickets, that will help me in making that deposit. Your tickets will still be yours and everything. So I'm not asking for anything extra but what your ticket is going to cost.
Okay. All right. Was just checking to see if there was an additional charge
No, no,
just to calculate.
I'm just hoping that there's enough interest.
Right.
It seems like there was a lot of interest, which is why we even went ahead to go and put this
Mm-hmm.
together. So,
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm hoping, yeah, of course, I'm just hoping that there's still enough interest that we can, get some early tickets in so I can put that down. Or I'm wondering, did I overshoot in my estimating? Like how many people are actually gonna come, or like, are people saying that they're interested, but they're not really going to come? And then if that's the case, then I'll just lower the amount of spots that I'm trying to reserve so that that deposit would be a lot less.
Okay, gotcha. Because I was saying here is too that you had 18 days refunds up to 18 days for
Yeah.
the event too. So that's a good thing, I guess. Things happen, people get sick or whatever.
Yeah,
Just
I have
wondering.
to have it like finalized 2 weeks before. So I figure
Gotcha.
18 days would be good so
Oh,
that,
good.
that gives me a couple of days there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
That makes sense. I have a question about the cabins.
Yeah.
Have you seen them, Marissa?
Yeah, they're all really nice. They've all been recently updated. They have kitchens. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good. And they have electricity and stuff. Now, how many will each cabin sleep up to comfortably?
6 people per cabin. Now, I just didn't want to put like the cabins as per person because I'm not going to make anybody bunk with each other. So I just put it as there's 4 cabins available. So like once that cabin is reserved, I know that that's like high cost, but it seemed like some people were interested in cabins. So I made that an option.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking to some gals so that we can go in together. So
Yeah.
I'm rallying some troops, but I'll probably send a deposit for a tent just to get my deposit in right away, and then
Okay.
deal with the cabin soon.
Okay. Yeah, if you do decide, and this goes for anybody, if you want to bunk with people in a cabin, if you would prefer a cabin, then you just have to like privately arrange that and split the cost of the cabin because it can only be one cabin reservation. I can't split it per person.
That makes sense.
Marissa, I've got a question.
Sure.
Okay, if you get a spot for a tent, your spot, how many tents can you put in that one spot?
Well, so that's why I split it per person. When I had
Okay.
originally made the Eventbrite page, I did it per spot.
Uh-huh.
So it's technically 11 tent spots, but the entire spot is $267 for a whole spot. And then I thought, well, why don't I just make it per person? And because it's one like big open area, so everybody can just put a tent on the spots. But each tent spot is allowed up to 6 people. And so these tent spots are like 50 foot by 25 feet. Like they're pretty big. So, and there's
Right.
11 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just 11 times 6, so I did it per person.
Are they charging you back? Like everybody's got an individual spot.
So I split it per person. So like, let me just give an example. Say like Katrina wanted to get a tent and it's her and her 2 kids. And then say Jeremy and his son came and they had their own tent. That's 5 people. And then say a single person came. So that's 3 tents, but 6 people all on one site. But everybody's only paying per person. Nobody's getting stuck with the entire tent site fee.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
I assume there's a bathhouse for the people that are staying in a tent.
Yes, I'll put it in the Telegram chat right now, like the map of it.
Okay. Are any of our overseas friends coming? Any of our overseas brothers and sisters considering coming?
That would be great if they did, or if they can make it.
Yeah, that would be so fun to meet some of our Aussies and Brits, and let's see, we got somebody from New Zealand. Where else?
I know Jermaine was saying that she was going to have Sukkot with the rest of their fellow Australians there, is what they were planning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I put the map in the chat there, guys, and if you guys are just want to join me in taking a look at it real quick, you can see on the top left the big B, that's the bathrooms. And so the right in the middle, all those yellow spots and that one pink spot, those are all tent sites. And so they're all like 50 feet long. So that's a pretty large area. And then there's those 3 tents near the tree towards the right of the picture. And so those 3 are primitive tent spots, meaning they don't have water and power. So I was thinking, like, just as a group, we're reserving those, and we'll set up all of our chairs and like a big fire pit. And that's where we'll have our community fires every night.
Perfect.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so we do get a 10% group discount, and so I did not include the 10% discount per ticket because I'm going to take that 10% that we're saving and put it into buying firewood for these community campfires every night. So it'll probably be like a quart of firewood.
That sounds perfect also, Marissa. Great.
Yeah.
You're a good planner.
Well, I've
Yes, you are. Praise Yah.
Thank you. I've owned a business before. I'm good at like managing and delegating and everything, and I just want this to be an awesome Sukkot for all of us, honestly.
Oh, I believe it will be. Yah's putting it together. Look at how he put this beautiful family together. Man.
Yeah.
Praise Yah.
And then
last Sukkot, I went up to Michigan to a group up there, and it was a similar setup with campers, tents, cabins, a bathhouse, a community, firewood place to, fellowship in the evening outside. It was wonderful. It was just such an incredible bonding time, and it was a lot of fun. It really was. It was a different group, and it was a group of people. I didn't know anyone till I got there, but it was just awesome. So I would encourage anybody who can to come, because if you have never been, camping out like this with a group of good, righteous people, it really is a good time. It's a real bonding time as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so
Yeah,
like on the picture, you guys can see the 4 cabins there that are also included in the circle. And then as well, those 3 orange spots at the top are RV sites, and then the 3 blue spots on the bottom are also RV sites. And so you can see the river is right there, but that's a steep bank. You can't like just walk down into the river. But like I don't have the full map of the campground here, but if I wish I did, but anyways, but like to the left of this picture there is like it's like kind of like a hill, and it goes down into the gravel bar where we can go into the river. And so I figure like one of the days we'll do baptisms and whatnot.
Oh.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
And they
And
also
Marissa,
have,
we're still coming to look at the campground with you this coming Sabbath, right?
yes ma'am.
Yeah. So we can take pictures, like real life
Yeah.
pictures of it too, and send it to the group.
And they also have like float trips and kayaks. You can rent kayaks and do that down the river and float down the river. And there's a playground within walking distance from these campsites for the kids. Yeah, I just feel like it's going to be pretty awesome.
Will those amenities be available that late in the season? Do you know?
I believe the float trips and the kayaks will be. I know that
Okay.
they have a pool on the campground, but that would be closed by then.
Okay. I know up in Michigan, none of the amenities were available at Sukkot, but Michigan's quite a bit further north.
Right.
So it was quite cool.
Right.
Yeah, here in Missouri, we can have 80-degree days in October, and we can have 40-degree days. It just kind of depends.
Yeah. And those first 2 weeks of October for Sukkot is like the transition week between the actual seasons. Like you may see like summer weather the beginning of Sukkot, and then it turns into fall weather by the end.
Yeah, so
Uh,
you'll have warm days, but cooler nights and mornings. So kind of
Yep.
like that too.
It sounds nice. Okay, now on this map here of the facilities, what is the building that says 7-8 and then the building that is 16?
So, that's also what I was going to say. So those are other cabins. They're like huge that are available for rent. But I did want to bring up, I know the campground owners personally, just they're clients of mine, and they told me that they really don't have a lot of people camping at this time of year. So we might be the only people in the campground.
Yeah, that's how it was up in Michigan. We were the only ones there.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah.
Personally, I would just rather have our group there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. Is
And if
there
there
like,
is anyone, it would be very minimal, you know.
yeah, it's not like it's high summer season. The reason I was asking about those 2 other larger buildings, if I was wondering if either one of those is like a community center where there's a kitchen where, we could have any community meals.
So all of the cabins have kitchens, but yeah, like those do, but they are expensive to rent, so that's why I didn't make it available. They're
Okay,
like
so
3-bedroom. I think one of them's a mobile home and it's split in 2, and the other one might be a mobile home too.
okay. I was just
Yeah.
wondering if any of those were like a community,
Yeah.
a big community room where we'd have Bible studies or meals or anything like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about like, so there's going to be some itinerary, and so those details are not, we haven't really discussed them yet or hashed them out. But I figured like some scripture readings on the high Sabbaths, and then maybe we'd have a men's group or like a women's group or a kids group. something like that. And I don't know, I guess I figured we'd do it around the campfire spot, or they also have a covered pavilion, which is like to the left of this picture, at the entrance of the campground, that is just for anybody to use, and it's pretty large.
Oh, where is it? Oh, it's not on the picture, huh?
Yeah, let me see if I can get the whole picture just so you can see what I'm talking about too.
It's an outdoor covered pavilion.
Yes.
Is it possible it's up where that big bee is?
No, it's further. It's
Okay.
let me see, because I have their website open on my phone. Let's see.
Yeah, praise Yah, getting it together for sure. Great planning, Marissa.
Thank you. Okay, here it is. I'm dropping it in Telegram right now.
Yeah, praise Yah. I know I'm planning on getting me and Callan's tickets or whatever they're called this week. So that's my plan.
Yeah, that'd be super helpful. If anybody is like certain about going, and you have the funds available to purchase your tickets this week, that would be so helpful and would go a long way with making this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great. That's really awesome. Praise Yahuwah. I'm actually pretty excited. I can't wait. It'll be great to fellowship in person with everybody.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that day also. Praise Yah.
And I was thinking maybe on Sabbath we could still set up like our Telegram fellowship, but do it like live there. So all of
Oh,
the
that'd be great.
yeah. So like
Hopefully we
everybody can,
have service.
yeah, as long as we have stuff through.
Oh, I think they have Wi-Fi actually. So yeah, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Perfect. Awesome. And yeah, Sue, deliverance is a part of worship, so it shouldn't have been stopped. I agree. If someone's stopping things like that, I don't believe that's right. I think you are correct. If someone is wanting repentance, things like that, we should be willing to do it right there, even if it is a festival. But yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah, I was planning on, doing a Telegram fellowship for Sabbath when we're there. We can do like a video thing so everybody could see and join in. And even those, in the UK or Australia or whatever other countries, we can all share what we're doing or where we're at. I think it'd be cool. So yeah, really exciting stuff. Really awesome. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about that, or any more questions, I should say, or anything else they would like to add or ideas? I'm praying in tongues. Goodness, it's definitely a controversial topic. But what we see, really the only verses about praying in tongues we're going to find in Paul's writings, things like that. So Paul, when he's also explaining it, he shows us, if someone is going to pray in tongues, like publicly like that, there must be an interpreter to interpret the message they're saying. So praying in tongues isn't like what the Pentecostals do, convulsing on the floor and doing all
Well,
these chants.
it's not
It's
gibberish. Praying in tongues is just being bilingual, basically. You just know multiple languages. That the
and it's always for a purpose. It's not just to show off among a congregation like what is expressed in a lot of Pentecostal churches, but Yah was purposely trying to reach the different nations that gathered there to be able to hear the good news of Yahusha. So there has to be a reason for it.
Yeah, correct. And yeah, the interpreter is only needed if it's the whole group. That's just what I was saying. So it's a public group fellowship thing. Has to be an interpreter there. If you want to go in your prayer closet and pray in tongues by yourself, by all means, go right ahead. That's between you and Yahuah. But if things are done in public like that, there must be an interpreter, and it's not to be done for some kind of show, or we don't convulse on the floor chanting a bunch of gibberish. That doesn't make any sense.
Hallelujah.
It's so the message can be interpreted by many is truly what it should mean. I knew I was speaking, but what? I don't know. Yeah, exactly, Ken. Were you a Pentecostal? And praying in tongues apart from that is when we're speaking to Yah and asking for intel. Yeah, exactly. So if you want to go to your prayer closet and you pray to your tongues, that's between you and Yahuah. You obviously know what you're saying.
We've been in
Yeah,
large groups, or not large groups, just like a room full of people, like 5 people or 10 people, or 100 people. It doesn't make a difference. We're all crying out and asking for information, like intel, and Yah will show us stuff. And more likely in smaller groups, like 10 people or 5 people, we've prayed together we've got somebody who wants deliverance or healing. We've all prayed together in tongues, and the Holy Spirit will speak to us. It's just stuff that we would never have known. For example, like I was praying with a group of people around a couple. This man had a pain in his rib, and we were all praying, laying hands on him, on his rib for healing. His wife was sitting to the side, and literally we were praying, why is it not getting healed? Why has he got a pain still in his rib? And then, bam, straight away, I knew that he has a marriage problem. I just knew that he is seeing another woman. I don't know how I knew that. It just happened in my head. I just knew it straight away because I was praying in tongues. And also, weirdly, I was given this, like, I don't know, boldness or necessity to just not beat around the bush, not just be like eloquent with it, but just go straight to him and said, excuse me, can you just come outside? I want to ask you something. And I said, I came outside and I said, excuse me, I think that you're having an affair. I just said it straight away. And he said, how do you know that? And I said, well, I was shown just now. God just showed me. This was like years ago. And his wife was standing there and she said, yep, he is. He won't admit it to anyone and he doesn't want to repent. And because I'd seen part of the image was I'd shown, as I was praying, we were all praying, I was seeing, Adam and Eve with the rib, and it was the rib, the pain in the rib was because of this marriage, this breakup. And so I was shown that, and I said to him, you need to repent, otherwise you will not be healed of that pain, whatever that is. And he said, no, I refuse. And he just turned around and walked out. But I mean, lots of times when we're praying in the Spirit, we see things, especially when we're together, we've been praying together. There's this thing that people call hot seat, where if you have a question, say, one lady, for example, said, like, I want to sell my house. Should I sell it or should I just rent it out? And we would all pray together. But we wouldn't always know the question. We'd say to them, keep the question quiet. Don't tell us. And we'd all pray and in tongues, and we would write down what we see. We might see a picture of something. And I think 3 of us saw a mattress on the floor. And we all like said what we saw and what we wrote down. And 3 of us said we saw a mattress. I also saw I saw a hare. You've got a rabbit and a hare, and I had to Google what's the difference between a rabbit and a hare. And the difference is a hare doesn't have a burrow, so it lives out in the wild. And it was basically, the answer was, yeah, don't have your house, sell your house. And lots of times it's when we're praying in tongues we see these things. And we don't convulse on the floor. We're sitting on a chair or standing up. We're fully in control of our bodies, and nobody has any shaking. That is another thing. Lots of times that's a Kundalini spirit that's been passed on through people through laying on of hands. It's a Kundalini spirit is when lots of people believe that this shaking that somebody in the church might have is something they want. And they want to have this power, this shaking. And when they start longing for this, like shaking, trembling, then it comes upon them because it's from Satan, and he will give it to them if they ask for it. So they have to repent of wanting this power that other people have, which is a fake power. And then we cast out Kundalini spirit. That's what that rolling around on the floor is. And making animal noises. That's what we've discovered. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that much.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, good explanation.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else understands. And also, we had a young couple come and stay with us for 3 months, and the lady, she had started speaking in tongues when she got baptized. Like, just happens involuntarily. You just get filled and start speaking in tongues. And she wasn't happy with it unless she knew what it meant. She was asking, I need to know what this means. And then she was given the gift of being able to understand tongues, like interpret them. But it wasn't that she was interpreting them, it's what she wanted to understand them. So she was actually able to tell us what we were saying. It was amazing. And lots of us were like just worshipping in amazing, like, poetic words, deep words that you would never ever use. But she also had the gift, she was also given the gift of seeing in the spiritual realm, so she could see angels and demons as well. And because we're in London, when she travelled on the underground, she had to ask, could you please turn that gift off? I do not want to see. Because there were so many people that had like 2 or 3 demons right next to them as they were travelling. She couldn't cope with seeing how many spirits there were while she was travelling. But I'm just saying that was her ability, was to actually interpret. That was really amazing to be with her, because she could see. She came and we did some baptisms, and she could see the spirits actually travelling with the people as they got in the water, because we had an outside pool in our garden, and they got in the water, and the spirits there's one man who had these 2 spirits that looked like lions, and they got in the water with him. And then when he went under and came up out of the water, the lions didn't get out of the pool. They stayed in the pool, and they were like screaming. They couldn't come out. So she's seen so many things, but this is, I don't know if that's associated with the tongues, but she got that gift with it. I'm full of stories because we've had so many random things we've gone through.
And word.
It's like about a year we went through, so I'm sure there's many people who have had lots more experiences than us, because we only did it for about a year.
No, thank you for sharing, sister. Awesome.
We want to get back into it. I'm sorry, I keep talking about it because I'm like longing to get back into doing that, but it's just that we haven't found anybody since we've been in Torah, which is since 2021. Can't find anybody that's into doing anything like that. Prophecy and healing and deliverance. And Acts 19, verse 1 to 7 talks about going around and checking that everyone has, like, is filled with the Spirit. We were doing that, and just can't find anybody. So we're really longing for people in the UK to work with, if there's anybody.
No, thank you for sharing, sister. That's great. Yeah, and like we were discussing before, it is an important thing. We have the authority and the power to, cast these things out. And, it's an important subject, not many really touch on, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it's not really an appropriate place to do it often.
Yeah. I know Katrina was really interested in it for sure.
I know, and I said to her, I can do that, but the thing is, I've got a whole lot going on right now in my house. It's technically overcrowded. I've got my daughter's registered homeless now. We've got every corner of the house. We've got a very small house, and then every corner of the house is full of things. And my daughter's fleeing from domestic abuse with a baby. She's been with us since January. My son moved in the day before Sukkot, decided to move in with his girlfriend. And so we had to go away to Sukkot and leave him here. And they've been here since. So we've got a full house. And I've got medical issues as well with my knees, and also with my blood pressure, and also with like mental health things. I need help. I've got so many things. So it's just like lots and lots going on. But I'm able to talk about how-tos and give prayers out and things, give out some stuff I've got, files and paperwork, and explain how-tos. But when it comes to actually, spending time with people for like hours and hours, it's hard because I'm babysitting all the time. I'm looking after this little baby all the time. My daughter, who's really not very well. But anyway, she needs prayer. We all need prayer here.
Yeah, we will definitely keep her in our prayers, sister, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's an important subject. And definitely keeping you in prayer, keeping everybody in prayer, for sure. We all do need prayer. Yeah, always good topics here. Do you got anything you would like to add to that, Katrina? Maybe I see her, but she's probably busy.
No, it's doing good. I just got dirt in my eye and dealing with that right now, so I can't really see.
Ooh, oh no.
Yeah.
Praying to get that dirt out of your eye.
I went to go blow my nose with a tissue that one of my kids was wiping their hands with, I guess, to get the dirt off, and it blew right in my eye. Yeah. No, wiping you. I guess you guys used that paper towel to wipe your hands with to get dirt off, and I blew my nose with it. Terrible. It hurts so bad. Sorry, guys. Kids are here.
No worries. Aw, I've had dirt in my eyes plenty of time. It sucks.
Well, how do you get it off? I keep flushing it out, crying it out. I don't know what else to do. It hurts.
If you have like clean water, not from a tap or anything, you can like kind of flush your eye out a bit with that.
Like distilled water?
Yeah, that'll work too. Yeah. Just kind of like, I don't know how you do it unless you have it like running in a stream, or you can put it in like an eyedropper, something of that nature. It'll help, flush all that out of there.
Hey, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Who here actually the season?
Wait, it broke up a bit there. Repeat that again?
Who has studied more here on the little season?
Oh, we've all studied pretty deep. I think actually Miranda would probably be the best for that information, because I know she studied pretty deeply into it.
Well, still a work in progress, but yes. There's lots to uncover. Did you have a question, Lee?
Yeah, if you've got any information on that, that'd be great.
Well,
maybe post that in section or something.
Sure. I can try. I have lots of weird random notes, so they won't make sense to anybody but me. Because I'm still trying to. I don't feel like the book, and this is just my opinion, I don't feel like the book of Revelation is in chronological order.
Of course.
But that's just kind of me being real skeptical about it, because I'm trying to see it from like a different perspective than what we've been taught. And then the second book of Esdras has like just so much. The second book of Esdras, fourth Esdras or second Esdras.
Yeah. Chapter 13. It looks like little season stuff.
Yes.
I've read it. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is jam packed with stuff. And then Enoch, and I can't remember what chapter off the top of my head, which it talks about the apocalypse of weeks. At least that's how it's described in the Enoch that I have. But I think it more means like the ages of Enoch, which is like 1,000 years, give or take. And it's basically going into like the 10, prophetic weeks of time before, the final judgment. And like I said, I just got home, so I can lead you to that chapter real quick. But I know that I haven't dug into Second Baruch, which there's been people that have really suggested that. So I'm trying to find a Bible that has Second Baruch in it, because apparently it's hard to order on Amazon. So, yeah. And then I, of course, watched tons and tons and tons of other studies that people put together. But, watching those, even though I'm extremely interested in it, I'm seeing it more from an area where, I think take more of the modern stuff out of it and try to get just more scripture in it, which there is a lot, but again, it's delegating the gold that is in scripture that we have and in the other hidden books.
Agree.
So I'm trying to just take it from the aspect of, scriptures, but Of course, then there's, if you want to look at it from like a modern aspect, the cathedrals that, they can't give us a clear date on when they were built. And, most of them are founded, and most of them being founded in the late early 1800s is very questionable, and, that kind of stuff.
Sure,
But
sure.
that's just, like I said, more of a modern, kind of insertion that kind
Historical.
of, yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, any information that you might have or something, I've watched a few. It's a question.
yeah.
So it's still something to probably dig into a little bit deeper. So any of your help would
Yeah.
be appreciated.
Yeah. I can try. Like I said, I really want, if if it's not too controversial for people, I feel like I'm not good with history at all. I was awful in history class. So most of the days that we're given, I have absolutely no idea, especially since I do believe that they're all over the place. They can't even get their story straight. When you actually really start to look at the historical timeline that we are given, there's lots, the dark ages, they don't really have much. And so I feel like, this is something that could definitely be looked into from all sides. I'm definitely trying my best, and I've got my own opinions, but I don't want it to be my opinion. I just want it to be, true if it's what is actually true, in Yah's timeline. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I know some videos as well. There's
Okay.
a couple that show it's a professor. He's got like a doctorate and everything in history, but he's walking through how he can prove how 700 years at minimum was added to our modern timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I personally
Yes,
think
I
it's
have
more.
seen that.
Okay, yeah. So I personally think it's more like closer to 1,000, but yeah, it's just solid evidence of these things. And then we have
Yeah.
the
What?
day the stars fell from the sky, other events like that would allude to what Revelation talks about. The stars falling from heaven, the sun going dark, the moon turning blood
Mm-hmm.
red. We can see that these events have actually taken place. So it's just like that's kind
Yeah.
of what turned me. That's what turned
Do you?
me, and I'm like,
Yeah, chapter 93 goes into the apocalypse of weeks. I have the version of the God culture, which is from I think it's from the R.H. Charles, translated from the Ethiopic text. And so he kind of has like his own personal opinions in it. But I'm kind of entertaining the idea that I feel like we could be past 7,000 years, but that's just an opinion right now. It's just kind of what I'm getting, because I feel like um from churchianity, we've been taught that, this world could only be about 7,000. Everyone, at least from what I've heard growing up, is 7,000 means complete and everything. And if you think about it, 7,000 doesn't mean complete, it means just rest. And 6 technically would be complete, because he completed everything within 6 days. And so I'm kind of leaning on, if Yahusha was here in the 7,000th year, that would have been rest from the adversary. So 1,000 years later, we're coming up on, that's like the 8th day. So are we in like, the prophetic 8th age or week? I don't know. But it's just kind of like what I'm thinking, maybe.
What is your opinion on the city?
On the millennial
Do you
reign,
get?
or the New
No.
Jerusalem?
No, the city that supposedly might be in the upper north.
Um,
New Jerusalem.
yeah. I think it's there.
Okay.
But again, that's just an opinion, based on just what I've seen. And I keep trying to like save room for like the possibility that we are coming up on the millennial reign. But every time I try to look at that point of view, I feel like there's something else that's giving me more proof that we are past it. And Madeline from Leaving Babylon did a really good series about the North. And we used
Yeah.
to be a huge movie buff, and everything also points to literally the governs of this world from the four corners preparing a battle for like Armageddon, basically. So
Yes.
again, you've got the predictive programming even also saying that too. So I mean, again, just food for thought. Just
Yeah. Sure.
But chapter
Interesting.
93 in Enoch, yeah, goes into the weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can send more stuff in the chat too. Like I have like a lot of videos that I've saved also, and like I said, kind of like my thinking of I've also been reading a lot of scriptures again in Second Esdras and Enoch, and even in the 66 books, and it keeps talking about the world being and having birth pangs. Okay, so in Second Esdras, he's asking Yah if just all the people can come now, right? And like, just don't let any more pain happen. Just, deliver all those people now that are going to be yours. And he's like, not so. So when you think about the first resurrection, and then there is a second, we just don't want to be a part of the second death. But being part of the second resurrection, there's still going to be people that are his during that as well. The first resurrection was just for the saints that were going to be reigning with him in the millennial reign. And so I think about the second resurrection as the Sheol giving birth to all the souls that have been put there for the second resurrection. And it always alludes to, a birth is not, or a pregnancy is 9 months. And again, coincidentally enough, the weeks end right at like 10. And then that's judgment. Like that's the final judgment. So again, like things to me kind of allude to, again, maybe the earth is past 7,000 because you start to feel birth pangs as a woman in about your 6th, 7th month. But those are usually called Braxton Hicks. And then obviously her final birth is in the 9th. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that makes a lot of sense.
What was that, Jeremy?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying any of this is true. I'm just seeing the things that the alluding to constantly, the birth pangs, and he said that the birth pangs in Yahushua's time were already starting, but that the time was not yet, and so, you start to get uncomfortable. And so you think about all the souls that are in Sheol that are resting and, calling up for, righteous, judgment on, and again, I don't know. I just kind of feel like definitely maybe past 7.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it's definitely something
very
worth
interesting.
looking into. Yeah. And, at first, even I was brushing it off. But when you start looking into things and the scriptures, and especially, what Messiah himself says, this generation will not pass before they see the coming of the Son of Man in the clouds, things of that nature, a lot of phrases like that. And it's like, well, if we're 2,000 years from that, we are not that generation, clearly. So, so what is he speaking about there? Because he says this generation, the ones around him, they won't pass until they see
Yes.
the coming of the Son of Man. So it's like, And then, like I said,
Yeah. Some question.
yeah, the additions to the timeline, the day the stars fell from the sky, things like that. Just all kinds of really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and another good example too is, and I didn't come up with this, it was off of a study, but it really like was just kind of like, wow, is when, when Daniel is given, the dreams about the beast coming out of the water and everything, he was told to seal the words of that book because it wasn't for that time. And then Yahusha quotes Daniel. So, right. So you're getting into that part where that time is coming, soon. And then when John wrote Revelation, he was told not to seal the words up of that book because it was for them. So that kind of gives you another indication that it wasn't sealed up. And I think was Daniel, was he about like 500 years before Yahusha?
Yeah, I
Maybe a
believe
little
so.
more.
Something like that.
But
Yeah.
but my point is, like if the time that John wrote Revelation, if it wasn't until 2,000 years later, he would have also been told to seal up the words of that book, right? Now, I don't believe all of Revelation
Yeah.
has happened, but I do believe most of Revelation has happened.
That's interesting. So what would you do about if he said to seal up the book of Daniel because it's not the time? What would we do about the 1,260 days, 1,290 days being a prophetic implication of something? So that would be Yeshua's time.
You broke up a little
That
bit
would
there
be
at the
before he
end.
came. Oh,
You,
I was a prophetic year, 1,260, 1,290. Blessed is he that comes to 1,335th day. We have to say that Daniel sealed up that book for the time of Yeshua and his coming at that point. So that 1,260 days, people would be taking that out of place as a prophetic year. Prophetic to what? Prophetic to when Yeshua had already come, his first the coming, when he comes back in that period of time. Because evidently that wouldn't be focusing on the little season, correct?
correct. Yeah, I don't think he was talking about the little season. I think he was talking
Okay,
about Messiah, but again, I'm really trying to look at this with different eyes. I noticed that
sure.
um, I noticed that, well, obviously we've been indoctrinated, school wise. And so like sometimes when I'm trying to think of like maps and everything, I always think of the globe first, annoyingly so. But now when I'm trying to look into the little season to see if it is possibly true, because there is very little to go off of. And, I'll be the first to admit that, like, that's why I'm trying to gather all the scriptures, because I do feel like they're there. And there's a reason why the church didn't talk about that, you know? And
Yeah.
so, and so, yeah, I, when it comes to the days that Daniel is talking about, I really don't know. I would assume he was talking about Messiah because Messiah quoted
Yes.
Daniel. So that meant like the words were open for them at that time because he was, he was
So to
fulfilling
add
the
to that,
prophecy of Daniel.
that's what
Okay. Now
Revelation.
I was.
Add to that, that's what. Sorry. um, but no,
Go ahead, Jim.
because in Daniel he says, seal up this book until that time, the coming of the end or whatever. But then in Revelation, we see don't seal up this book. Why?
Yes.
Because they're
It's
actually,
not finished.
yeah, in the book of Revelation was actually, it's dated to about 68 or 69 AD. So that would be just before 70 AD when, they say that's when the temple was destroyed the Son of Man came. And to that point, to Ken's question, the War Scroll in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's what's kind of showing. It was them who took up the swords and they took down the temple because of Messiah's words saying, "Take up your sword or sell your cloak and buy a sword."
Buy a sword, yeah.
So they took that seriously, and they went and they had that war with the sons of darkness, and that's when the temple was destroyed, and the Romans somehow helped out in that.
And the sons of darkness were the fake Jays, right?
Yeah, exactly. The fake Jays.
Yeah. Now, Miranda, do you have access? I was about 2 to 4 videos through. What's her name? Madeline.
Do I have access to her channel?
Oh, she's made it private.
Yeah. So she actually had to delete most of her content. She, I guess, was getting bullied by somebody who, I think if you have so many complaints on your YouTube channel, they will deactivate you. So I think what she was doing is she took down all of her videos momentarily so that if this guy, because I guess this guy kept making account after account after account, and I guess reporting her channel. And so she was finally like, because I mean, her videos, when I say I'm not good at history, that girl is phenomenal at history. Like she can just, in a way I can't. And so, but yet I can understand it, right? Like when she describes what's happening and what's going on. And so as of right now, she only has one video out, and that's,
there's only one left up there.
Yes, and that was actually not her recent one, but fairly recent, because she had made another one that I had saved, and I was going to watch it, but she ended up taking it down because of this guy. So she will be bringing everything back. She just took everything down as of right now.
Okay, I just thought maybe she just made it private, and some people had access, some people did not.
Nope, she took it down so that YouTube wouldn't take it down, and so that she wouldn't lose all her videos, I think. I even went to her Rumble, because Rumble is not as censored, I don't think. And she even took everything down there. So she said she's coming back though. So I know. I was really upset. Like I was really, really upset when everything was taken down, because I had a lot of her videos that I wanted to go back and listen to with more attention and like a notepad and a pencil so I could make better notes. Because I run a small in-home daycare, and so it's hard to focus sometimes when the kids are screaming and grabbing my attention every 5 minutes. But I like to listen to her because there's some key things that she points out that I'm like, wow. So, yeah, unfortunately, her channel is down right now.
Okay. Well, I thought maybe somebody might have grabbed some of them, before it went down or something, and they had them or whatever, so I could finish watching. It's like starting at the beginning of the book, and then all of a sudden you don't have the middle or the end of the book. So
I know, and I even had some of her videos saved, and because she is the creator and she took it down, it doesn't matter if I saved it or not, it'll automatically get taken, unfortunately, which really stinks. But
right.
I did record that last video she has up though, and I have it saved here. Well, it's on the other group.
Goes away.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one about international gate line, and she talks about that's where New Jerusalem can be located.
Yeah, that was crazy. And again, it just gives you a different perspective on, oh my gosh, just geographically, like I knew that Canada and Russia were connected, but the fact that there could be even more land there, because she said, what, Jeremy, like 3 time zones in a span of an area where they say there's no area. Like it's odd. And so I mean, you're talking almost the complete like span of the United States in an area where they don't say there's any land. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's
Right.
odd. It's odd, and definitely gets you kind of
Yeah.
scratching your head.
Right.
1,000 miles.
What'd you
Well,
say?
do we need to get? Is there anybody able to pass through that strait to get there in a
Oh,
small boat? Or
they have that heavily guarded. I mean, heavily. You have to have clearance. And, it's kind of like the whole thing of it. It's a big club and you're not invited or you're not in it. They have a treaty, just like they have an Antarctic treaty. They also have an Arctic treaty, which if you're getting up there past, Canada, going into Russia, nope, you can't. Not unless you have clearance.
Hmm. So it's waiting on the ships of Zebulun.
Yep. But, I kind of have, it sucks, but I kind of have like the perspective, or I have to have the perspective so I don't get mad and dwell on it, is that, I don't think they can do anything. They can't, no, I don't think, I know. They can't do anything and they can't go past a certain line either. Because in my opinion, just like there's angels guarding, the Garden of Eden, I believe that he's got people guarding his place too, So even they can't get there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. They're not going to be allowed there. Something will happen where they don't get that far. So I'm just wondering if
Well,
there's a time when
but when they
either y'all
do,
gathers his people, but if people don't know about it, then how would they even consider that option?
well, again, this kind of makes me think of, this could be a very big reason also for the deception of the globe, because we think of the North as being on top of a globe. That's what they teach us in school. But yet the North is not on top of a globe. It's in the middle of this realm. And that's very different. You're looking for something up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. It's actually in the middle. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of my thinking is because why else would they go to the trouble of all that unless they
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
specific
Right.
reason to hide?
Sure.
And
And it
again,
looks like trying to gather nations together to go up to war against it. I can't get that out of my head, something that Obama said years ago, whether it pertained to that or not. But he said, what we need is a civilian. Whether it pertained to that or not, I don't know.
well, so I used to, I don't know if anybody else, I mean, this was again when I was in the world, but I was a huge Game of Thrones fan. What?
Wait. Lee, I think if it was Lee talking, you clipped on the very last, at least I didn't hear what you said. Could you please repeat what Obama said again?
Oh, well, Obama had made a statement. I just thought about it. Whether it pertains to it or not, I don't know. But he said, what we need is a civilian army. A civilian army for what? To go up against the camp of the saints? Possibly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Miranda?
Yeah, sorry. So when I was really big into watching TV shows, my husband and I binge watched Game of Thrones. If anybody doesn't know what that is, I wouldn't recommend you watch it because I definitely wouldn't again. It's very graphical. But in there's this big ice wall that's keeping what they call the wildlings and the White Walkers in. And the goal is to tear down that ice wall so that they can make war with the nations that are in it. And again, I just think and then I think of, I really liked Lord of the Rings. And in Lord of the Rings too, the outer part of the nations, which were like, I don't know, like, kind of withdrawn, outcast or whatever, they also make war with the inner part of their realm in that movie series also. And so again, like, you have predictive programming that's kind of telling you what I think could be happening.
Right. Yeah, I want to look more into it. So yeah, any information you got, I'd like to dig into it a little bit and make a clear decision.
Yeah, I'm still finding
Absolutely.
lots of scriptures.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Libby's here. She just joined.
Wow.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good information about it. There's some pretty solid evidence as well.
Yeah,
So
there is.
it's something that's really hard to just dismiss, especially after looking into it. Sure, it's easily dismissed at first, but then once all this evidence you start digging into it and you're like, this can actually be plausible. So yeah, it's really fascinating, honestly.
Where'd Libby go?
She's in chat. I see she's typing. Yeah, join up, Libby.
Now, I don't know if you want to, probably not now, if Libby's coming in too. But I think that Dustin Hoffman is on that live Yahuah, by the way, now. I think he was scheduled to do the talk.
Oh yeah, speaking about that, thanks for reminding. So next week on Zoom, I'll be presenting the calendar we have found that Yahuah showed us. We'll be presenting that method to Dr. Jackson Schneider on his Zoom meeting. So next week I might start it even an hour earlier than we did this week, just so we can finish in time. And then I can share the Zoom link in the chat here, and then we can all jump off here and we can all join that Zoom link. So that way you guys can all be there to listen in as well. And I'm sure he's going to put it on YouTube just like he has all the other ones. So yeah, it should be interesting. And yeah, I think it is about now they're doing that thing with Dustin Hoffman. But the problem with him is, he's seen the solar cycle. And, no matter what we've presented to him, he hand wave dismisses it. And like I said, he mocks and scoffs. So there's some things we want to address there as well. But yeah. Libby, if you want to join the live. And all praise to the Most High. I can actually I should stop the recording here because it's 3 hours and 47 minutes. Telegram only records 4 hours. So yeah, let me actually stop the recording and I'll restart the recording again. And it'll also be easier for those listening later on YouTube as well. So yeah, give me just one moment here.